Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if Naruto has Rinne Sharingan and Tenseigan. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. Naruto was floating next to Sasuke, who was standing on one of his truth-seeking ball platforms. Sasuke glanced over at Naruto. That technique? Sasuke asked in a questionable tone. Naruto nodded. Yeah, this will never work, Sasuke admitted. I just need ya to trust me on this one. Naruto asked once more. Black Zetsu sneered from inside Kaguya's sleeve. I don't know what you're trying to do. But my Ka-chan can absorb any ninjutsu. Whatever you're trying to do is meaningless. Sasuke glared at Naruto. Are you sure this is the only chance we have? Isn't there anything else? Sasuke growled at Naruto. We don't know unless we try. Naruto spoke in a very serious tone. I've been practicing this jutsu in secret more than the Rasengan. It's worth a try. Sasuke nodded, accepting Naruto's reply for the time being. If that can create an opening in the enemy's defense, I guess we can try. My left eye is ready. Sasuke spoke as his Rinnegan pulsed with power. Let's go. Sasuke yelled while Naruto performed the hand seal for the Kage Bushin no Jutsu. Yeah, Naruto released the battle cry. Kaguya narrowed her eyes. She felt no need to use her Byakugan until they decided to actually do something. Amaterasu, Sasuke whispered as he channeled chakra to his left eye, which began to secrete tears of blood. The eternal black flames said to be unextinguishable engulfed Kaguya's body, but she completely ignored it, simply absorbing them before they could do anything to her. Naruto rushed in towards Kaguya. Kage Bushin no Jutsu. Naruto spawned off 6 clones as Kaguya activated her Byakugan. What Naruto did next was forever burned into Kaguya's memory. Why reverse harem no jutsu? Everyone besides Kaguya sported a deadpan look. Kaguya on the other hand blushed crimson red. Naruto dispelled his jutsu soon along with his clones as he sucker punched Kaguya in the face, sending her flying back. This is the history of shinobi, you bastard. Naruto roared out. Meanwhile, Sasuke threw a kunai in the direction Kaguya's body was heading, but he wasn't aiming to hit her, he threw it past her, and used Minato Hikara to teleport himself, putting Kaguya in between the two. Now, Naruto! Sasuke shouted. Sasuke and Naruto were within inches of sealing away Kaguya, until she activated her Rinne Sharingan's signature ability, Amanamanaka. Sasuke, Kaguya and Naruto were now stuck in a block of ice. Cold. What? Naruto thought to himself. Ice. Sasuke thought to himself. Kaguya opened another portal as she escaped from the ice block. She vanished. Is she able to travel through dimensions? Naruto thought to himself frantically. Naruto glanced to his right as he saw Kaguya exiting her portal. Kaguya moved again in hopes of being able to drain them of their chakra. Sasuke's left eye began to bleed once more. Amaterasu. Kagetsuchi. Sasuke yelled in thought as he channeled chakra to both of his eyes. The black flames swirled all around, destroying the block of ice, freeing him and Naruto. Thank you, Sasuke. Naruto thanked his supposedly best friend. Also, sorry. This jutsu soon didn't work. Naruto apologized. I never thought we were going to be able to beat her with that. Sasuke grunted. This time we're going with my tactical cooperation. Sasuke grunted again. Black Zetsu slithered out of Kaguya with sleeve again. Ka-chan. They are hard to deal with. We should just separate them and attack them. One at a time, the mass of black goo suggested. Kaguya raised her hand as a portal opened. Was the only noise Naruto can make as he watched? Sasuke got pulled through the portal. Sasuke landed in a massive desert, another dimension. Where am I? Sasuke asked himself. Sasuke. Naruto yelled as he tried to pull the portal open. Unfortunately, it completely closed, and Sasuke was trapped. Shit, Naruto cursed. Black Zetsu began to chuckle sinisterly. Now, you can't seal my Ka-chan anymore. Kaguya spoke in her melody-like tone. I'll start by absorbing all of your chakra. Kaguya spoke as she opened another portal, attempting to grab Naruto. Luckily, Naruto could evade the instantaneous attack thanks to the help of his Rikudo Senjutsu enhanced sensory abilities. You have nice reflexes. Black Zetsu grinned in a sinister way. But it won't be enough. Kaguya was pleasantly surprised at how fast Naruto was. This boy is fast. She spoke before she entered a portal which closed completely around her. Does this mean I can't tell where she's going to show up next? Naruto spoke aloud before the whole ice dimension began to shake. Below Naruto, 6 large spikes made of ice struck Naruto at great speed. What? The ice quickly pinned Naruto to the ground, binding his movements. Now that Naruto was immobilized, Kaguya emerged from the portal. You finally came out. Naruto groaned out. Naruto looked up at Kaguya as she began to fly down towards him, with the intent to absorb every bit of his chakra. Yes, come here. You want my chakra, don't you? It's pointless to use big flashy techniques, she'll just absorb it. What works best on her? Taijutsu and diversions. Naruto thought to himself. Why techniques aren't going to work anymore? I guess I'll go back to my origins. I'll corner her with that. When she tries to escape with that door again, I'll enter too. And I'll look for Sasuke. I can still feel his chakra clearly. Naruto continued his thoughts as Kaguya closed in. This is my dimension. You can't do anything. Kaguya growled. Are you ready, Naruto? I'll take your chakra to its boiling point. Kakuo spoke in her usual calm tone. Yeah, Naruto replied. Once Kaguya was within 20 meters. Naruto called out a technique she did not expect, let alone heard of, Fuden. Kairiki Muso, boil release. Unrivaled strength. An immense amount of steam exploded from Naruto's body, causing the ice that held him to melt. Naruto then shattered the ice with one swipe of his hand, before jumping into the air and clashing with Kaguya. Wara ahhhhh. Naruto yelled. The chakra demigod clashed with the chakra goddess, causing one of the mountains of ice to shatter apart. I prepared and refined your chakra for you, Naruto. The yin portion of Kurama announced to his host. Thanks, Kurama. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naruto roared out as he summoned nearly 1,000 clones, all in Kyuubi Chakra Rikudo Senin mode. All the clones flew at Kaguya from every direction. Kaguya, not impressed in the least, merely raised a hand, sending out multiple chakra fists demolishing many clones at once. Now this is my dimension. One of Naruto's clones yelled out. Naruto Chiiki Renden, Naruto Region Combo. Despite their massive numerical advantage, Kaguya blocked blow after blow from each of Naruto's clones. However, even for someone as powerful as her, she found it slightly overwhelming as the attack continued to become more and more intense. Tilting her head up, Kaguya opened another portal via Yomotsu Hirasaka, Underworld Slope Hill, to escape from the overwhelming onslaught of Naruto's army of clones. She opened it, Naruto thought, as all his clones closed in, as Obito focused on the portal. Naruto at Kaguya, intending on following her, unaware that Obito had already beaten him to it, using his Kamui to enter Kaguya's dimensional portal. Not too long afterwards, Naruto saw her re-enter into the ice dimension in the dimensional. She seemed to have a look of disbelief. Naruto didn't really seem bothered by this as he and his clones charged in after her. Kaguya also charged at him with Tomagoroshi no Haikatsu, all-killing ash bones, extending for both of her palms as she proceeded to cut down all the clones in front of her. Shortly after that, a large spiral opened on the ground near Kakashi, as Sasuke, Obito, and Sakura all jumped out. This took Naruto and Black Zetsu by surprise. No way, Sasuke. Black Zetsu mentally cursed. In Naruto's distracted state, Kaguya extended her hair out to wrap around him and proceeded to impale him through the stomach with a bone spear. Now you don't have to worry anymore, Kaguya spoke in a cruel, sinister tone. Naruto, Kakashi, Obito, Sakura, and Sasuke shouted in unison. Be bastard, Black Zetsu cursed out loud. He made a clone carry his Truth Seeker balls on purpose. Can he even do that? Black Zetsu was starting to hate Naruto more and more by the second. Thank you, Sakura-chan, Obito. Naruto spoke in a cheerful tone. He's okay. Sakura cheered. Don't scare us like that. Obito replied. Suddenly, Naruto's body exploded in a cloud of smoke. Sasuke, feeling relieved, immediately jumped into action and activated his Susanoo to ascend to the 2's altitude. The Truth Seeker balls returned to Naruto as he shouted to Sasuke. Sasuke, did you thank Sakura-chan and Obito? Focus on the enemy. Sasuke replied harshly. Kakashi released a sigh of relief. Naruto has always been weirdly cunning. This is why they call him the most unpredictable shinobi, the silver-haired scarecrow thought to himself. But, that unique nature of his may just save us all. Ka-chan, now that they're united again, we have no choice. There's no more time to save chakra. Black Zetsu spoke to Kaguya through a telepathic link. I know, she replied as her Rinne Sharingan pulsed with power. Increased gravity dimension. They all appeared in a dimension with multiple small pyramids on the ground. This dimension had a strong gravitational pull as all those in the air were pulled down to the ground. Even Naruto and Kaguya, who had the power of flight, could not resist the unbelievable pulling power of this world. Kaguya extended her hands as two bone spears began to peek out from her palms. Naruto and Sasuke could dodge the first barrage, but Kaguya had acclimated to the increased gravity as she prepared another two bone spears. But this time, Obito and Kakashi were already on the move to protect Naruto and Sasuke. The bone spears were inches away from piercing both Kakashi and Obito. Both would have perished, until Obito warped away the bone spear that was about to impale Kakashi. Obito had only been able to protect Kakashi, since his right eye's Kamui required physical contact. Obito had saved Sasuke and Naruto from being hit by Kaguya's Tomagoroshi no Haikatsu, which was already beginning to break down his body from the impact area. Why, we should both? Kakashi asked. My visual prowess is back. Sasuke thought before teleporting right next to Kaguya, with his Chidori sparking to life, but in that instant, Kaguya changed the dimensions again before flying up into the air. Your power is still needed here. It would be best to just leave me, Obito admitted to everyone around him. I've always been useless. I've always been nothing more than a screw-up for everyone, but even so, I owe Naruto a gift and I intend to give it to him before I go. Sasuke-kun, Obito then addressed the raven-haired shinobi. I need you to focus on the enemy to buy me and Naruto some time. My own time is limited and it's going to take all I have to finish this. Obito interrupted, while feeling the ever-growing hole in his gut. Black Zetsu begins talking smack about Obito trying to get Naruto riled up and it was working. But, Sasuke interrupted, Naruto, calm down. He's just trying to get under your skin. He activates his perfect Susanoo and takes off into the air heading straight to the rabbit goddess to buy Obito the time he needs. Obito turned around to face Naruto, lifting a single arm. Obito? Naruto asks, looking at the weakened Uchiha. Obito smiled at Naruto and placed his index and middle fingers in between his eyes. He made a one-handed tiger hand sign. Naruto, become Hokage at all costs. I believe in you, you look so much like your father. He said, and with that he turned to dust. Yeah, Naruto whispered as he opened his eyes revealing to now have Obito's Sharingan. He glared up at the fight going on in the sky between his friend and Kaguya. Using a combination of his own enhanced speed, 6 paths power, and Kamui, in a flash of gold, Naruto blitzed Kaguya, slashing her arm off with Black Zetsu attached to it. The arm fell to the ground, which Naruto proceeded to pin it down thanks to one of the Gudadamas floating behind him. Kaguya, enraged and shocked by the blonde's actions, fired her chakra arms at Sasuke, crushing his Susanoo, but not before he cut her with his massive blade. In an even greater fit of rage, Kaguya launched multiple Tomagoroshi no Haikatsu at Sasuke, who began falling from a great height. But it was too late, because despite 2 out of the 3 bone spears missed Sasuke, the third one hit its mark. The decayed bamboo-like projectile pierced Sasuke through the stomach as he vomited out blood. Naruto's eyes widened in horror as he flew towards Sasuke. SSSAAASUKEEE. Naruto caught Sasuke as he falls forwards, laying the dying Uchiha on the ground as Kakashi and Sakura ran over to them in hopes of saving Sasuke. Sasuke-kun, hold on, I'll heal you. Sakura cried out with tears her eyes. Sasuke grabbed her hand. No, Sakura, it's too late for me. I don't deserve to live anymore. Naruto became outraged and yelled. Don't say that, Sasuke. I thought you wanted to become the Hokage. Sasuke looked up at Naruto into his new Sharingan eyes with a sad expression. Sasuke's eyes became heavy as they closed and he smiled. With the last of his strength, Sasuke pressed his pointer and middle finger against Naruto's forehead. Soon afterwards, Sasuke's weak body fully disintegrated. Sakura cried out in sadness. Kakashi put his head down in shame. having not been able to protect his former student. Naruto, we need to talk. Kurama called out to Naruto before he could start grieving over the death of his best friend. Naruto felt himself being pulled into his mindscape. Mindscape, kid, we need to talk, things aren't looking too well out there. And at the rate you're going, we're all going to die. But me and my siblings have come to a decision to ensure that everything goes smoothly. We shall meld together and create a new Jubi. This one will have sentience, unlike our original form. On top of that, once we have extracted our other parts, they will be resealed into you and will combine with the new 10 tails, Kurama explained in a melancholic tone. No, you can't do that, Kurama. We're partners. I don't want you to do that. I don't care about myself. Please don't sacrifice yourself for me. Naruto yelled out, his voice cracking. Tears made their way out of the blonde's eyes, but he didn't rub them away. Even if he did, more would follow. Kurama gave him hell in his early years, but since the beginning of this war, Kurama has become closer to Naruto. The demon fox and the sage had become the ultimate duo throughout this war, relying on each other and helping the other complete their shared goals. One wanted to destroy Madara Uchiha, and the other wanted to bring peace to the elemental nations. Naruto stared up at the fox in silence, hiccuping from trying to force down his rising emotions. Naruto, dry your tears, now is not the time. You can cry after this war is over and Kaguya has been sealed away. Kurama said as Naruto seemed to regain control of himself to an acceptable level. He slowly walked up to Kurama and raised his fist, tears silently running down his face. All the other Bijus placed their hands, paws, tentacles, and feet on top of Kurama's fist. Gaki, you better win, we're not sacrificing our consciousness for nothing, you know. Shukaku grumbled. Regardless of what we become after this, Naruto-kun, just remember we'll always be with you. Matabi meowed softly. Bring our creator's wishes to fruition, and bring peace to this god-forsaken world. Isobu spoke in a dull, bored tone. Gaki, you've already saved us once, so we're returning the favor now. Beat this ancient rabbit bitch for us. Ho ho. Son Goku howled. I know you can do it, Naruto-kun. We needed each other's help to get this far, and now it's time for you to finish this. Kakuo gave a few words of encouragement. Yes, Saiken believes you can do this. Saiken squeaked out in her squeaky tone. I wish you the best of luck, as I am lucky number 7. Chomei said, which everyone's sweat dropped at his speech. Naruto, be sure to tell B that I'll miss him, don't let us down. Defeat her, Naruto. Yuki said in a sad tone. Naruto, it's time we bid you farewell. I know you can do this. I've seen all that you've accomplished through the memories of my other half. There's no doubt in my mind that you will not fail. You will succeed and overcome this obstacle like everything else you've done. Sayonara, my friend. Perhaps we will meet again in a different lifetime. Until then, keep on fighting to protect those you love. Kurama said, allowing one single tear to drop from his eye. All 9 Bijus began to glow different colors. Shukaku turned tan, Matabi blue, Isobu teal, Son Goku bright red, Kakuo light blue, Saiken pink, Chomei green, Yuki purple, and Kurama turned yellow. The 9 multicolored energies collided with one another, creating a large orb of white and black chakra that seemed to be solidifying. Naruto could no longer hold his emotions as he dropped to his knees, crying his eyes out. No matter how much hell Kurama caused him, he had just lost one of his best friends forever. The raw emotions exploded from Naruto's wails of despair. Dobi, stop your crying. You still have to defeat Kaguya Otsutsuki. A familiar voice echoed throughout Naruto's mindscape. Naruto's eyes shot wide open when he saw familiar black hair. Sasuke, you're alive. No, you baka, I am indeed dead. I simply implanted my Rikudo chakra into you so that you have a fighting chance against Kaguya. Sasuke said to his idiot of a friend. I need to tell you something. The reason why I wanted to become the Hokage, execute the current cage, kill the Bijus, and push for a revolution to destroy the old world and rebuild anew. But now that I'm no longer in the world of the living, my plans will never come to life. So, I guess I have to put my faith and trust in you, Dobi. Naruto eyes widened at Sasuke reason for wanting to become Hokage. Why would you do that, Sasuke? Naruto asked in both a surprised and hostile tone. You really are an idiot, aren't you? We're opposites. You're Ashura. You love helping people, and you acquired help from multiple people to do anything. While I'm Indra, I do everything on my own and I prefer being alone in the dark. Sasuke explained. But neither is perfect on their own. Do you get it now? Separately we're incomplete, but together we can be something much greater. I can see it now that you're far stronger than me. You always held back. You were afraid of killing me. That's why you held back so much of your power. But please stop doing that, it can get you killed, but knowing you're not going to listen. Sasuke said before grabbing Naruto's left hand with his own left hand, and placing his other hand on Naruto's head. What are you doing, Sasuke? Naruto asked, starting to get a little bit afraid. I'm going to complete you, Naruto. I'm going to make sure you don't fail. I'm going to give you the Rikudo chakra Hagoromo gave to me. This should allow you to awaken the Rinnegan. And trust me, this is for your own good, Dobi, because you're too stupid and naive to do anything on your own. Before Naruto could utter another word, the only thing he knew was pain. He could feel all Sasuke's potent Rikudo chakra course through his chakra coils. It only lasted an instant, and once it was gone, Sasuke let Naruto go as he dropped down to his knees. By the way, this will leave some of my own personality in you. Farewell, my brother, I believe in you. Sasuke said before he vanished from sight. Naruto finally forced himself up to a standing position. Looking around, Sasuke was nowhere to be seen. Naruto then heard a loud crack sound. He turned around and noticed that the large sphere of solidified chakra was beginning to break apart. Naruto did not know what to expect to come out of this solidified orb of chakra. Naruto watched as the pieces of the orb of chakra began to reconverge and take a new shape. Naruto expected a demonic creature, but he was surprised once again. The orb became a pale-skinned woman with delicate facial features. She had long black hair, reaching to her waist, and her eyes were two Rinne Sharingan. She had long, dark fingernails. She wore a multicolored white, blue, and yellow kimono. However, the most notable feature she possessed was that she had two black-haired wolf ears and a wolf tail on her behind. Naruto stared at the beautiful woman standing before him. She looked around as if she was confused, frightened. Naruto decided that she needed some assistance, and walked towards her. Jubi? The newly born Jubi looked towards Naruto before tilting her head. Yuto. She spoke in a distorted, broken tone. Naruto nodded. Yes, I'm Naruto. Naruto said awkwardly. The woman tilted her head to the side. So, Jubi, do you have a name? Naruto asked the woman in front of her. She straightened her head again before answering. No, she answered. Naruto frowned at this before gently tapping his finger against his chin. I've never given anyone a name before, this might be tough, Naruto thought for a few seconds before a grin spread across his face. I got a name, how about Kahana? Naruto declared as the humanoid Jubi remained quiet before giving a small smile showing off her white teeth. I like it, Naruto. The sound of her voice was starting to get better, it was softer, more human, more feminine. It seemed the more they talked the better they got. Perhaps it had to do with the fact that she was just created, and was trying to get used to their new form. Kahana-chan, do you remember Kurama, our son? Naruto asked, hopeful that the Jubi did. Kahana nodded. Yes, I have their memories, and I'll always be here for you, Naruto. The Jubi declared in a happy tone as her 10 tails wagged back and forth. Naruto smiled. Even after losing Kurama, he gained someone else who could possibly fill the void that Kurama left. Naruto. Kahana spoke in a serious tone of voice. Yes, Kahana, what is it? Naruto asked. You remember what happened when you channeled Kurama's chakra with your Rikudo Sennin mode? Kahana asked as Naruto nodded. When you channel my chakra with your Rikudo Sennin mode, it will grant you a form like Madara's Jinchuriki form, but much stronger in every way, Kahana explained as Naruto nodded. I'm going to help you defeat Kaguya, and with the power and Rinnegan you inherited from both Sasuke and Obito. We will not fail, we shall succeed. Naruto looked confused. Rinnegan? Naruto said before closing his eyes. He could sense the unique energy that the Rinnegan created. He indeed had 2-6 Tomo Rinnegan. Now I believe it's time for you to leave, as you're about to enter into the new world. Kahana said, which almost instantly Naruto was forced out of his mindscape. Kaguya's dimension. Naruto's whole body was engulfed by layer after layer of white smoke, making it nearly impossible to see Naruto except for the silhouette of his body. Soon afterwards, everyone could hear footsteps as Naruto slowly making his way out of the thick clouds of smoke. When he emerged, not only was Kakashi and Sakura surprised, but so was Kaguya, as Naruto greatly resembled Madara after he became the Jinchuriki of the Jubi. Naruto now had spiky white hair and pale skin. His once golden chakra cloak was replaced by full-bodied black garment with black pants, fingerless gloves, and boots, over which he wore a flowing white robe with 6 black Magatama markings across his chest and the familiar pattern of a black Rinnegan and 9 black Magatama markings in rows of 3 on his back. 2 gray horn-like protrusions grew out of his left and right temples, giving him an overall appearance very like that of the Sage of the Six Paths. Naruto now had 10 Truth Seeker balls floating behind him in a halo formation. In his right hand he held a dual-headed shakuho. One end has a ringed hoop, while the other end possesses a crescent-shaped curve, representing the sun and moon respectively. Naruto opened his eyes, which were both sporting Tomo Rinnegan. "You're going to pay for what you've done, you rabbit bitch," Naruto growled before kicking off the ground, flying directly at Kaguya with the intent to kill. "How dare you call me that, you wretched base creature?" Kaguya yelled back in anger as Naruto slammed into her body. The 2 chakra gods clashed above the ground. Every time the 2 clashed, they created shockwaves from the amount of force that both Naruto and Kaguya were releasing. The amount of power that these 2 possessed was immeasurable. "Yasugami Kugeki, 80 Gods Vacuum Attack," Kaguya yelled out as she released a volley of chakra fists at Naruto, who countered with his own chakra fists. Chakra fists clashed with one another, which released even larger shockwaves that caused the ground to break apart beneath them. Kaguya growled as she was pushed back yet again by this pathetic base creature. It angered her that he could match her easily in speed, strength, and chakra. Perhaps she would have had a better chance if she left Indra's reincarnation alive, and without Black Zetsu. Things seemed grim. Kaguya extended her right hand and a bone shard began to stick out of her palm. She was intent on murdering Naruto with or without his chakra absorbed at this point. Unfortunately for her, Naruto's left eye pulsed with power. "Kamui!" Naruto yelled as space seemed to distort around Kaguya's hand before being sucked into a vortex, ripping her hand right off. "Ah!" Kaguya yelled as she glared daggers at Naruto. Naruto's left eye pulsed with power once more before appearing directly behind Kaguya with a Rasengan in his hand. Kaguya turned just in time to get blasted towards the ground by Naruto's Rasengan. Naruto watched as the rabbit goddess came to a full stop before glaring at him. She focused on the stump that used to be her arm. Naruto's face contorted with a look of disgust as sounds of sickening flesh movement echoed clearly. "So, she has instant regeneration?" Naruto thought to himself. "You have the same power, Naruto, since you have no Rikudo Senjutsu, and me inside of you." Kahana explained telepathically as Naruto nodded. "An insect like you has no right to wield such power. Your chakra? It belongs to me, all of it shall become one. I shall make all chakra mine once again." Kaguya growled before her eyes widened. Before she knew it, Naruto was gone. Kaguya looked up but was too late. Naruto's right in front of her with his fists cocked back. "Will you shut up, you fucking rabbit bitch?" Naruto yelled. Naruto slammed his fist directly into Kaguya's face, sending her hurtling towards the ground before Naruto dive-bombed at her. Kaguya opened her eyes, glaring at Naruto before extending both of her newly regenerated hands and released bone spears from both palms. Naruto quickly dodged the projectiles, although once the threat was gone, he saw a flurry of chakra fists heading straight for him. Naruto dodged again, turning his head to the left. He saw Kaguya. In one quick motion, Kaguya ripped out Naruto's left eye, instantly crushing the eye. "Gah!" Naruto cried before clenching his empty eye socket. "Naruto, you all right?" Kahana asked in a concerned tone as Naruto groaned at absolute agony. "No, she ripped out my eyes," Naruto responded as he glared at the rabbit goddess. Kahana was concerned for its host. "What are you going to do?" Naruto glared up at the grinning goddess. "An eye for an eye. Neji and so many others have told me just how useful the Byakugan is." Naruto replied darkly. "If that's what you want to do, that I won't stop you. Also, I was able to transfer your long-ranged Kamui to your remaining right eye." Kahana spoke as Naruto nodded in appreciation. Naruto quickly focused his right eye on Kaguya before activating his Aminatte Hikara, heavenly hand power. as he instantly appeared before her, much to the goddess's surprise. As she tried to gouge out his right eye, her hand phased a ray through his head, much to her surprise. Using her surprise against her, Naruto quickly aimed his fingers for Kaguya's face and quickly ripped out one of her Byakugan. Kaguya cried in pain as Naruto quickly descended to the ground before implanting her Byakugan into his empty, aching eye socket. Naruto felt Kahana chakra going towards his to establish a connection so he could properly use it. Naruto grinned as his new silver-ish white eyes are fully operational, sending chakra to it. The veins around his left eye bulged. "This is incredible, I can see everything around me," Naruto thought with glee. Naruto quickly reascended to the air before raising his hand into the air. Naruto's 10 Truth Seeker balls floating above his head, as he was preparing for a major attack. "Let's go, Kahana," Naruto yelled out. "Yeah, Naruto," Kahana yelled back, as his 10 truth-seeking balls formed into 10 Bijudama Rasen Shuriken. He threw the 10 Bijudama Rasen Shuriken at Kaguya, which causes a giant explosion. "Ah!" she howled in pain. Naruto smirked before summoning his perfect Susanoo. With both of katanas unsheathed, he proceeded to cut the massive explosion in half, gently landing on the ground before dispelling his Susanoo. Naruto looked up, to see Kaguya missing the lower half of her body and her right arm. Both of her horns were missing. "What have you done to me, you base creature?" Kaguya yelled in anger, as her body began to morph, changing. Naruto's new Jubi Jinchuriki form caused a chain reaction with the bijus trapped within Kaguya, causing her form to mutate into an unstable rabbit-like version of the original Jubi. From down on the ground, Black Zetsu, who was pinned by 2 of Naruto's Truthseeker balls, became more and more worried for his mother, Creator. "This isn't humanoid. This thing is not Ka-chan, and it's not the Jubi either. It must have been caused by Naruto's previous attack that called the bijus to the surface, which resulted in Ka-chan being turned into that thing. It's not stable," Black Zetsu thought to himself, as he saw the abomination with at least 10 tails with hands at the end of them. Unfortunately, much to his surprise, the abomination sent one of its tails directly after him. "What no? Ka-chan, doomed," were the last words Black Zetsu cried out before being absorbed. Naruto smirked as he noticed the 9 bijus within Kaguya were fighting against her. "Kahana, you ready?" Naruto yelled. "Yes, I'm ready, Naruto," Kahana replied. From the back of Naruto's abdomen, 10 white chakra-based tails bursted into life. 9 of them grew hands at the end of him before latching onto the 9 biju heads that were currently moving in the giant orb behind the unstable rabbit-like version of the Jubi. Naruto made a cross-like hand sign. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naruto created another 1,000 clones, which all grabbed his single remaining tail and began to pull backwards. "Come on, you guys, yank them out," Naruto yelled out, as the clones all released their own battle cries, before pulling back hard. The giant mutated chakra Jubi released a howl as the 9 bijus were ripped from its body. "They're out," Naruto cheered before dispelling all his clones. After which, he proceeded to pull the 9 bijus into his body. "We did it, Naruto. The other halves of the biju have been sealed, they're combining with my being as we speak." Kahana confirmed their successful assault, but it wasn't over yet. Looking up, Naruto could see the unstable rabbit-like version of the Jubi body collapsing on itself, revealing a weak and frail Kaguya Otsutsuki. As she glared down at Naruto, gritting her teeth in anger, which Naruto didn't give her a chance to recover as he rushed at Kaguya and put both of his hands on her. "Rikudo, Chibaku Tensei, 6 Paths Catastrophic Planetary Construction," Naruto howled. Kaguya, not one to give up without a fight, with the last of her power, howled. Yomotsu Hirasaka. A dimensional portal opened behind Naruto. Even with his powers, he couldn't resist the sudden and unexpected pull of the portal that was behind him. The last thing Naruto saw was Kakashi and Sakura's shocked faces seeing him fall into the portal. Naruto also saw the cruel smirk on Kaguya's face, before she slowly morphed back into the lifeless Geto Mazo. Naruto opened his eyes as he realized he was currently laying on a futon, quickly sitting up and looking around. Naruto noticed the room he was in. The design and furniture of the room looked as if it belonged to someone of royalty, like a king or queen. It could have possibly even been a prince or princess. Naruto began to wonder where specifically he was. Although he didn't have to wonder for very long, as a sliding door opened it revealing Kahana in all her absolute beauty. "Kahana-chan, where are we? What is this place?" Naruto asked as Kahana giggled slightly. "We're still in your mindscape, Naruto-kun. If I may, I have someone who would like to meet you," Kahana explained as Naruto nodded before getting off the futon. Naruto silently followed Kahana through the hallway before they came to a large set of sliding doors. Kahana gently and delicately knocked on the door. "Come in," a majestic female voice called out. Much to Naruto's surprise, the only person Naruto knew of who had a voice that rivaled this one in terms of beauty was Kahana. Upon opening the door, Naruto was rendered speechless by what he saw. He saw a beautiful, elegant and attractive young woman with a voluptuous figure, long crimson red hair pulled back in a ponytail with split bangs, and ruby red eyes with cat-like pupils. She had alabaster white skin and enormous breasts which rivaled Kahana's in terms of size. She wore a red kimono with a gold interior as well as a pink obi. More noticeably, she had a pair of red-orange fox ear and 9 red-orange foxtails. She was currently sitting on one of 3 seiza pillows in front of a brown wooden round table with a tea kettle, multiple teacups, and what looked to be an assortment of different types of food. She must have been waiting patiently for Naruto to arrive. The beautiful red-haired woman gave an amused smirk when she saw Naruto. "Well, I must say you're a definite improvement over my previous container. Now please sit so we may discuss a few things." The crimson-haired vixen gestured for Naruto and Kahana to sit. The two beings from another world sat on the 2 available seiza pillows accordingly. The female Kyuubi handed both Naruto and Kahana a cup of tea and began to speak. "I believe we should start with introductions. I'll start us off. Hello, I'm Otsutsuki Kurami, eldest daughter of Otsutsuki Hagoromo. I was born from the division of the Jubi's power. I like walking through the forest in the morning, cloud watching, and watching the sunset." The newly named Kurami spoke. Kahana decided to introduce herself next. "Hello, my name is Otsutsuki Kahana. I was born from the collaboration of the 9 bijus of our world fusing together. I'm not really sure what I like now. I guess spending time with Naruto-kun would be my only like." Kahana said, a little bit unsure in the like part. Naruto took a quick breath before speaking. "Yo, I'm Uzumaki Naruto. I'm the son of Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Kushina. I like ramen, my friends, spending time my friends, eating ramen, gardening, training, and tomatoes." Naruto said, wondering where the tomato part came from. All things considered, it most likely came from Sasuke's memories. Kurami smirked yet again. "Well, then I'll be the first to welcome you both this world, and I must say our worlds appear to be very similar from what Kahana-chan told me. But the key differences are the Otsutsuki clan was not powerful godlike beings. My Chichi-Yu was a special case. His mother Kaguya Otsutsuki was not a very powerful woman. From what he told us about her, she was kind of frail and avoiding conflicts at all costs." Kurami explained. "The fact that you have obtained the Rinnegan and taken Kaguya's Byakugan is astounding. But just because you have gained these powers doesn't mean I'm going to work with you willingly. You have to prove to me that you're worthy of using my chakra," Kurami said again before taking a sip of tea. Naruto raised an eyebrow before turning to Kahana. "Kahana-chan, I've been meaning to ask you about that. What happened to me? I can't feel the 6 paths power, or my Rinnegan and Byakugan. Also, right after implanting that Byakugan, I felt a surge of energy that I never felt before." "What was that?" Naruto asked curiously as Kahana sighed. "I'm not really sure, but I know you gained knowledge directly from Hagoromo when you accepted his chakra. And you most like gained, even more, knowledge when you gained Sasuke's half of Hagoromo's power." Naruto pouted. Kahana shook her head but giggled at Naruto's behavior. "The only thing I know is that that surge of power was the awakening of something called the Tenseigan. I have no knowledge on what it is, other than it has equal in strength to Tomo Rinnegan. However, the reason you don't feel those powers is that you have taken the body of this world's Naruto-kun. All your powers and experience have transferred without issue, but your Kekkei Genkei, Rikudo powers, and much of your chakra have been sealed. You still have the Sharingan at its base form and Byakugan, but you must reintroduce your new body to intense training. Once you've done so, all of your abilities and chakra will slowly recognize you and reawaken." Kahana advised Naruto as he nodded. I estimate that it will take about 2 years, give or take a few weeks, of constant training to fully restore your eyes, body, and chakra reserves. Until then, I will be able to lend you small amounts of my own chakra. I see, thank you very much, Kahana-chan. Naruto then turned toward Kurami before giving her a warm smile. I wouldn't expect you to make it easy on me and Kahana-chan, but I hope we can be friends. Naruto said, hoping that the crimson-haired vixen wouldn't deny his offer for friendship. Kurami stared at Naruto with a look of almost disbelief. In all her years of living, not once has one single human ever asked to be her friend. It was strange. From what she learned from Kahana, he was on good terms with her male counterpart Kurama. But would she be able to return his feelings? She wouldn't know until she tried. You are a strange one, Naruto-kun. Your counterpart here was as dense as a brick. But, if we're ever going to work together, I guess we might as well start off with being friends? Kurami said in an unsure voice. Although much to her surprise, she saw Naruto lean over the table and stretch out his arm as he made a fist. Kurami froze. She sensed no negative intentions come from him. He genuinely wanted to befriend her. She blinked before smiling and extended her own arms as they both fist bumped. The moment they bumped fists, they unintentionally shared their memories with each other. Naruto for his part blinked in surprise at Kurami's memories. Hagoromo created the bijus much sooner in this world than he did in his own world. Kurami and her siblings spent their childhood with Hagoromo, as he taught them about the world and how to use their chakra. In this world, Hagoromo could give the biju actual physical living bodies and not chakra-based bodies. When Hagoromo died, this caused the 9 bijus to split apart. This left Kurami by herself, and as time went on she decided to interact with humans. Unfortunately, this wouldn't last too long as Madara showed up, and the rest was the same as his home world. Kurami found herself in awe at how much Naruto had done for her counterpart and his siblings. And that they were willing to fuse together to give him enough power to defeat Kaguya. She found herself starting to like the blonde-haired human more and more as she viewed his memories. Crao, you guys already know Naruto's past, so I'm not going to bother explaining it. All the while Naruto and Kurami were fist-bumping each other. Kahana sat there smiling. Perhaps with Kurami here, Naruto wouldn't feel so disconnected. The two separated as they both sat down, not uttering a word, while Kahana blinking confusion. Why are you both so quiet? Kurami spoke first. It appears we shared our memories with one another, and I genuinely surprised that when I saw them. Naruto nodded at this. The differences between you and Kurama are greater than I thought, he commented. Kurami sighed before grabbing a piece of meat with her chopsticks. Well, this makes it easier this way. I don't really have to explain anything, she said before stuffing the piece of meat into her mouth. Naruto felt the need to ask her question. If you don't mind me asking, Kurami-chan, where are we exactly right now? Naruto asked curiously as Kurami gently tapped her chin with her finger. I believe you're in the Forest of Death and it's the second stage of the Chunin exams. That disgusting hubby Sanin Orochimaru, who hit you with the Gogyo Fuin, 5 elements seal. But upon your arrival, Kahana-chan was able to destroy the Gogyo Fuin with a single pulse of her chakra. Kurami explained. Naruto closed his eyes as he was deep in thought. Naruto smirked. So that damn snake already hit Sasuke with a curse seal, huh? I could remove it now if I had my Rinnegan, but now since I don't have the Rinnegan or Tenseigan right now, I think I should take care of those 3 auto ninja. It will give me the opportunity to test out the Sharingan and Byakugan too. Naruto thought to himself before opening his eyes. Kahana-chan, I am able to use the Byakugan and Sharingan, yes? Naruto asked while Kahana cocked a delicate eyebrow. Of course, you can. Let me guess, you want to test out your new eyes? Kahana said as Naruto nodded. She shook her head but smiled. Sure, go ahead. Just please be careful, Kahana said while Naruto grinned. Don't worry Kahana-chan, I'll be fine, Naruto replied with a foxy grin before he stood up and waved goodbye before vanishing from his mindscape. He's far different from the Naruto of this world. He's so bright and full of energy. I can feel him rekindling my cold blackened heart. Kurami spoke aloud, staring at the place where Naruto once sat. Kahana smiled as well. I believe you'll change the world for the better, and with us all here for him, he has no chance of failing. The humanoid Jubi said to the crimson-haired vixen, who simply smiled before taking another sip of tea. Forest of Death. Shikamaru knew he had to come up with something to get them out of this, and fast. "Would you really kill your teammate?" he asked, trying to stall for time. "Anything, even a second or two would be good. The longer they lived, the better their chances of survival were." "PSH, you seem to think we actually have feelings for this girl," Zaku said, looking at the Konoha genin with a cruel sadistic grin. "The only reason why she's on our team is because her skills complement ours. But if she couldn't even stop herself from getting caught by some worthless jutsu like that, then we have no further use for her. She is expendable. Bah, I can't take this anymore." Everyone looked up to see Neji and Tenten on a branch a few meters above them. Neji scowled as he crossed his arms, some small-time ninja from a second-rate village like Otogakure fighting a bunch of defenseless beaten kids. "You call that a victory?" He scoffed, "How pathetic. They're persistent as cockroaches. Those other losers gave up far easier than these ones," Dosu mumbled. "Lee," Tenten muttered as she saw her teammate. Neji glanced at her before looking back at the battle. He focused his sights on the three Auto Genin. Neji soon channeled some of his chakra into his eyes, causing veins to bulge around the sides of his head. The glare he sent the Auto Nin, enhanced by the bulging veins of his Byakugan, caused Dosu and Zaku to freeze in their tracks temporarily. "It seems you used my teammate as a punching bag. That will be the biggest mistake of your life." "Yeah, so what if we did white eyes? What would you even do about it? Come down and kick our asses?" Zaku sent the Hyuga a returning glare. Neji was about to reply when something caught his eye. Before he smirked and deactivated his Byakugan, "It seems we don't have to do anything." However, before anyone could reply, a massive amount of chakra, it was at least as much chakra as Shukaku possessed. This level of chakra sent shivers down everyone's spines, especially Dosu and Zaku, who both began to sweat. They are under the tree standing next to the still unconscious Sasuke. They were all shocked to see a person standing there. Naruto stood there in all his glory as he removed his bright orange jacket, tossing it to the side. Naruto glared at the Auto Nin before him. His cerulean blue eyes were cold as ice. Naruto stared down at his hand, quickly clenching, as he tightly made a fist. "My chakra control is definitely gone, but taking out the story shouldn't be much of a problem. It would probably be best if I didn't use any of the jutsus I learned from Ero Sennin, as it would raise too many questions." Naruto thought as he released his killer intent, causing everyone to tense up, minus Zaku, who either he didn't possess sensory abilities, or simply didn't care. The blonde black smirked before clasping his hands together, activating two different powers in his eyes. In his left eye, the cerulean blue color transformed into a pure white pupil-less orb with veins bulging from his left temple. His right eye changed color as well, but instead of white, it became red with three black tomo encircling his black pupil. He had both the Byakugan and the fully matured Sharingan. "Naruto?" Sakura mumbled in shock, awe at her formerly unconscious teammate who stood there ready to fight. The boy with two of the three great dojutsu stared down his enemies, who hadn't moved for some reason. "So, this is the feeling of having the Byakugan and the Sharingan," Naruto thought to himself in awe. "With this power, I can absolutely win this battle and protect everyone," Naruto said with a smirk before looking up. He saw everyone around him. Every person in the line of sight of his white and red eyes landed on tensed, minus Zaku, who either he didn't possess sensory abilities, or simply didn't care. Naruto narrowed his eyes at Zaku, who didn't even react to Naruto's glare. "What is this? This changes everything. We were supposed to destroy Sasuke, not to deal with some kind of mutant." Dosu's mind was in shambles as he stared at this boy's eyes. His chakra is overwhelming. It's unbelievable that someone this young looking has this much chakra. He might even surpass Orochimaru-sama's power in a year at most. There's no way in hell we can beat him. "So, one of that girl's fallen comrades finally woke up," Zaku said as he realized who this boy was. With all the confidence in the world, he stepped towards Naruto with a smirk on his face. "Now what are you planning to do? You can't stop us before we finish Sasuke off." Dosu was trying to come up with a plan to get them all out of here before this man killed them. He knew his teammate didn't stand a chance against Naruto as he was now, and tried to stop his fellow Auto Ninja from attacking the Nine Tails Jinchuriki. Zaku don't. However, Zaku simply ignored his teammate's warning and held out his palms and shouted, "Zenkahyokuha, extreme decapitating airwaves." A powerful blast of slicing airwaves emitted from Zaku's hands were incredible. Everyone was forced to crouch down and cover their eyes as the immense pressure displaced the air around them, causing some of the bystanders to be knocked off their feet. When the powerful jutsu finally ended, all the attendants saw the large-scale destruction that Zaku had created. Even the tree that both Sasuke and Naruto had been lying under had been destroyed. Zaku was breathing heavily as he stood there, his feet spread shoulder-width apart, slightly crouched, with his hands held out in front of him. However, despite his obvious state of exhaustion, he had a proud smirk on his face. "Hey, look at that," he said in between huffing and puffing. He still retained his arrogant tone despite his exhausted state. "Blew that little shit to pieces. Not quite. You should really check where you are aiming next time." Zaku's eyes widened as he heard a voice from behind him. He quickly turned around and saw Naruto standing directly behind him with both Sasuke and Sakura behind him. Naruto raised a single hand as he punched Zaku's forehead hard. Zaku released a shout of pain and surprise, as he was literally sent flying. He soared through the air, right until his body hit the ground and started tumbling. His still conscious teammate yelled his name, but unhelpful to the boy as he rolled across the ground like a rag doll. Zaku came to a full stop, and managed to push himself up onto his hands and knees. Such speed! Dosu cried out in surprise. He managed to get his teammate out of harm's way in the blink of an eye. Everyone else seemed to be just as surprised as the petrified Otto Nen. While Zaku's whole body shook in shock and a little fear, the members of Teams 10 and 9 were staring at Naruto in disbelief. Even Neji could barely comprehend what he saw in Naruto's eyes. Naruto took a step forward before he heard a small voice in his head. It was Kahana's voice. "Naruto-kun, use the 8 trigrams. Vacuum palm, Hake Kusho." Naruto's eyes widened slightly before he received mental instructions on how to use this technique. "Hake Kusho." Naruto yelled before extending his hand palm out. Naruto then launched a shell of compressed air and chakra at the unsuspecting Zaku. Watching the sudden attack, Neji was in pure and utter disbelief. Who is he? Why does he have the Byakugan and know the Juken, gentle fist? He wanted desperately to know. "Zaku, you must dodge it." Dosu yelled out at his teammate, who nodded and narrowly dodges the cone of chakra. Upon this cone hitting the ground, it exploded, literally shaking the area and sending rocks and debris flying everywhere. Everyone looked in shock, awe, and fear at the devastation of such a small attack. Naruto simply raised his arm again, creating the same technique once more, firing the technique at Zaku again, who stuck out his arms and released a powerful blast of his own airwaves. "I'm not going to let you get the best of me again." Zaku yelled out frantically, trying to stop the small drill of destructive chakra. Naruto simply smirked. "How cute, but your little breeze won't save you." Naruto spoke in an arrogant tone, clearly showing some of Sasuke's personality traits that he gained through Sasuke involuntarily. Zaku's eyes widened when he saw the cone pierced through and destroyed his attack and hit him directly in the stomach. Much to everyone's surprise, the attack didn't pierce through or gouge Zaku's body, but Zaku soon felt incredibly weak. "Gah, my chakra, what is going on?" Naruto advanced towards the fallen Otto Nen before picking them up by the back of his shirt. Naruto then turned towards Dosu. "Don't worry, your teammate is not dead. He's simply weak from his chakra being temporarily closed. Now give me your scroll before I beat you half to death." Naruto spoke in a non-humorous tone. Dosu gulped as he grabbed his scroll. He knew better than to mess with someone who had this much power. "Here, will you let us go?" Dosu asked as he tossed Naruto his scroll. Naruto, in turn, tossed Zaku to Dosu. Naruto caught the scroll and looked at it. Nodding with a satisfied look, he pocketed the scroll and gave Dosu a dismissive wave. "Yeah, go get lost or something." Dosu held in a sigh of relief as he picked up Zaku and Kin, throwing one over his shoulder and the other in an underarm carry. Naruto waited until Dosu was out of sight, before deactivating his dojutsu. With the danger gone, Naruto turned around to face his fellow Konoha genin. "Yo," Naruto said awkwardly as he waved. Everyone looked at him, still stunned. "Naruto?" Shikamaru spoke in a very unsure tone. The Nara answered as he couldn't believe that this person was Naruto. But it made no sense. Naruto always wore his obnoxious bright kill me orange jumpsuit, and never took it off for no reason. Another factor has Naruto had an obnoxiously loud mouth which they all remembered from the academy, and yet this he was calm and cool and collected. Shikamaru couldn't help but wonder what happened to the blonde. Something must have happened to him during their fight with the Auto Ninja. Naruto stood there with a slightly annoyed look on his face. Well, who else were you expecting? Santa Claus or something? Naruto asked sarcastically, causing the two beautiful Biju within him to giggle. Naruto's little retort seemed to snap everyone out of their stupor, but this still left them in a haze as they wondered how this person, who was radiating this much power, could possibly be Naruto. There was no way this extremely powerful and handsome-looking young man could be the dead last of their class. Shikamaru was about to ask Naruto a question when a vile and evil chakra descended onto the clearing. Everyone turned to see Sasuke, still on the ground, but with a violent purple chakra leaking out of his body like wisps of smoke. Naruto simply turned around and stared at Sasuke, as the chakra covered his entire body, encasing him in an ugly purple barrier. The barrier soon exploded, purple chakra lashing out in all directions. Sasuke was now hunched over, his legs spread out. He slowly stood up straight from a fetal position. The right side of his body was covered in glowing orange marks that spread across his face, arms and legs like a parasite, the strange flame-like marks that looked every bit as evil as the chakra he was unleashing felt. Sasuke-kun? Sakura mumbled in shock, awe and more than a little lust as she saw all of the power he was emitting. This, Sasuke Uchiha said in awe. His eyes lowered to his arm that was covered in all the fuinjutsu markings. This power, this is just what I need to kill him, to kill Itachi. As if just noticing for the first time that he was not alone, Sasuke's head raised and his eyes stared at all the people around him. His gaze then focused on Naruto, who looked different from what he once did. Sasuke looked at Naruto with jealousy in his eyes. Naruto had easily doubled the amount of power he now possessed. That power should be his and his alone. What's with the sudden change, Naruto? Sasuke growled in a demanding tone. His Sharingan eyes glared into Naruto's cerulean blue eyes. Naruto's eye twitched at Sasuke's behavior. Naruto in his original timeline never woke up in time to see how Sasuke defeated Zaku. It seems Naruto gained Sasuke's memories when he transferred his Rikudo chakra over to him. Naruto was truly disgusted by Sasuke's actions. I'm under no obligation to answer your question, but maybe I felt a change was in order. Since I believe it's time I start taking my career as a shinobi much more seriously. Naruto spoke in an annoyed tone of voice before activated his 3 Tomo Sharingan and Byakugan, just in case Sasuke tried anything crazy. Sasuke growled at Naruto, not liking the tone used. How? Why do you have the Sharingan? Sasuke screamed. No, it doesn't matter if you gotten stronger or gotten new eyes. I'm still going to defeat you and show you your place, which is far below me, loser. Sasuke yelled out. Naruto narrowed his open eyes. To think I actually considered him a friend, maybe I should just kill him and be done with it? Naruto thought to himself but decided against it, as Sasuke's personality traits had a big influence on him. Whether these influences were positive or negative Naruto was unsure of now. Naruto then snapped back into reality as he saw Sasuke agent closer to him with his fist reared back. Well, let's test out how strong he is. Naruto thought to himself. Be careful, Naruto-kun, you don't want to overdo it right now, you may just accidentally kill him. Suki called out to her host. I would listen to her, Naruto. You really shouldn't be overdoing it right now. Kurami also called out to her host. Naruto internally smiled. Don't worry, I'm not gonna do anything crazy right now. I just going to scare him a bit. Naruto replied. Kahana and Kurami both shook their heads at Naruto's behavior, but they couldn't help but smile as they knew he wouldn't use this power for evil. As Sasuke's face against closer to Naruto's face, a surge of chakra exploded from Naruto's body. Naruto performed the Hakushokaden, 8 trigrams palm rotation, and completely deflected Sasuke's punch, causing the partially insane Uchiha to jump back in confusion. Naruto ceased the rotation and deactivated his eyes. He reopened them, revealing his cerulean blue eyes. Sasuke jumped into action, preparing to kick Naruto, who blocked Sasuke's kick with his forearm. Sasuke aiming his other arm at Naruto's face, who caught it with his left hand. Naruto quickly brought his knee up into Sasuke's stomach, causing the last Uchiha to double over in pain. Naruto delivered a powerful uppercut to Sasuke's chin, followed up by grabbing Sasuke by the collar of his shirt and delivering an even stronger powerful headbutt, knocking the Uchiha out cold. Everyone who was present and conscious simply stared at Naruto with a look of disbelief, as he literally overpowered and knocked out his teammate. Sakura on the other hand filled with rage at what Naruto did to her precious Sasuke-kun. She stood up and began to march over to Naruto. Her march quickly turned into a run as she shouted, "Naruto no baka, how could you do such a thing to Sasuke-kun?" She screeched out with her fist cocked back ready to unleash righteous fury upon her blonde teammate. Naruto flinched at the tone of the pink-haired banshee's ear-piercing screech. Looking over at the underdeveloped ugly pink-haired girl rushing at him with a fist cocked back, Naruto narrowed his eyes, having no intention of letting her hit him anymore. What the hell did I ever see in this pain? Now I know why Sasuke never liked her, she's so fucking annoying. Naruto mentally growled as Kahana and Kurami nodded in agreement. Naruto sidestepped and tripped Sakura, causing her to fall face first to the ground. Sakura quickly picked herself up, but not quick enough to stop Naruto from delivering a chop to the back of her neck and knocking her out. Naruto sighed before cracking his neck and creating two clones, one to carry Sasuke and the other to carry the pink-haired banshee. Naruto quickly looked over at teams 9 and 10. "Oi, guys, I think it would be a good idea for you to move on to the tower," Naruto said as he leapt into the trees and disappeared. Was that really Naruto? Ino asked, unsure of how to feel about the events that transpired. She was unaware of the blush forming on her face, as her mind reminded her of how attractive he had become. When did he become so gorgeous? Sasuke doesn't even begin to compare to him. It looks like it, Shikamaru muttered to himself. From the expression on his face, it was clear that he was displeased by these new developments. He had absolutely no problem with expressing his thoughts for more complaining. "This is just perfect, now that blonde can be even more troublesome, even more than you, Ino. Come on, we'd better head to the tower so we can get out of this damn troublesome forest." Naruto couldn't help but grin as he and his clones continued hopping through the trees. Naruto finally understood how useful the Byakugan truly was until right now. Not only did it eat up less chakra than the Sharingan, but allowed him not only to zoom close to 1000 meters ahead of him, it also gave him X-ray and 360 degrees peripheral vision as well. Even if his chakra reserves weren't as big as they used to be, Naruto still had more chakra than most of the Jonin in Konoha, as well as supersonic speed without enhancements from either Kahana or Kurami. And another reason he was so happy was he managed to snatch a heaven scroll from the unsuspecting AIM ninja he dealt with in his original timeline. Now that he was much more mature and intelligent, Naruto couldn't believe how pathetic some of the people were that entered this exam. He couldn't believe that he literally pickpocketed the scroll off one of the AIM ninja without even being noticed while they were laying traps. The first time he was in the Forest of Death, the blonde Uzumaki had no idea how long he had been unconscious in the forest. This time, Naruto had a couple of hiccups on the way to the tower, and to avoid any conflict he purposely allowed his clones to smack his teammates' head against tree branches to ensure the peace and quiet that he had been enjoying. Naruto had no desire to listen to the shrieking and wailing of his two teammates. It didn't take Naruto long before he found himself standing in front of one of the doors leading into the tower. After gently pushing it open, Naruto and his clones walked in and looked around. The room was a decent size, with several red columns on either side acting as supports. The walls were a barren gray, with cracks and stains that showed just how old this tower really was. Soon enough, Naruto's eyes landed on a large poster hanging on the wall opposite to the door. Since Naruto already knew what to do, he created a clone and handed it to Earth Scroll. Nodding to the clone, they both opened the scrolls at the same time. They both threw the scrolls to the ground, forming an X as the Heaven Scroll landed on top of the Earth Scroll. There was a burst of smoke, and when it cleared, Iruka Sensei, Naruto's teacher and surrogate father, was standing in front of Naruto. Iruka was a man of average height and build. He had brown hair that was being kept in a ponytail, dark eyes and a scar that ran across the bridge of his nose, which he has had since his youth. He was wearing the standard Konoha shinobi outfit complete with forehead protector, sandals and flak jacket. "Hey Iruka-sensei, it's been a while since we've seen each other, hasn't it?" Naruto said with a foxy grin as he saw one of his only precious people. Iruka was the first person to believe in him besides the fourth Hokage and his mother, and one of the only people that Naruto considered family. "Hello Naruto." Iruka seemed surprised by Naruto's new look. The grown man who had experienced the Kyuubi's attack on Konoha years ago was speechless and couldn't even utter a single word after yelling out Naruto's name. "Yeah, that's my name, please don't wear it out, sensei." Naruto chuckled. The scarred man managed to compose himself as he asked a quick question. "Naruto, what happened to you? You look so different?" Naruto finished Iruka's sentence. "Let's just say I awakened my bloodline sometimes during the exam, and we can leave it at that." Naruto said, much to Iruka's mixture of confusion and curiosity. "I didn't know you had a bloodline? Well, I didn't know I had one either," Naruto said in a clueless tone. "But don't worry sensei, I'll tell you about it later. I just gotta figure out some things. For now, I'm kind of tired and hungry." Naruto spoke with a nervous chuckle as he scratched the back of his head sheepishly. Iruka nodded. He decided to drop the subject when he noticed that both Sasuke and Sakura unconscious on the floor not too far with Naruto. What exactly happened to them, Naruto? Naruto looked at his so-called teammates, and then looked back at Iruka with a look of disappointment. Sakura got knocked during a fight with some auto nin, and Sasuke got in a fight with a freaky lady who could summon snakes and she gave him a hickey. Naruto explained. For all intents and purposes, he was telling the truth. Sasuke had been unconscious after he received the mark, and Naruto had to knock out both of them after the fight with Auto Ninja. On the other hand, Iruka felt a chill go down his spine. To his knowledge, there were only two people who could summon snakes, and one of them was a S-rank criminal, traitor. Assuming that man was truly in Konoha, then it could only mean trouble, and lots of it. "Anyways, I think you get them to the hospital. They may be in serious trouble," Naruto said. Thankfully for him, Iruka simply nodded as he regained his composure. "Sure, I'll get them to the medical bay immediately then. In the meantime, you should head down to the cafeteria. It's down the hall, 3 doors on your left, and after that you should head over to room 232 and get some rest. You have 2 days until the second part of the exams end." Naruto had a grateful and happy expression on his face. "Thanks a bunch sensei, I'll see you later then," Naruto said as he ran down the hall to get something to eat. Iruka simply chuckled as he shook his head. Different looks or not, Naruto was still the same. Time skip. The next morning, Naruto was enjoying a blissful sleep, dreaming about a happier time, of him being Hokage with Sasuke standing by his side as his right-hand man. The dream was too good to be true, which was correct as Naruto was woken up by water hitting him directly in the face. Naruto awoke to see Kurami standing over him holding an empty bucket that once held water. She had a smirk on her face. "I believe it's time for you to get up. It's around noon." She spoke in a voice that held quite a bit of humor as he glared at the crimson-haired vixen. But then something came to mind. How was Kurami in the real world when she was supposed to be sealed within him? "How did you get out of the seal? I thought it was impossible for any Biju besides the Jubi?" Naruto spoke in a confused tone. Kurami raised a single delicate eyebrow. "Well Naruto, to answer your question, it's exactly like the Kachiyose no Jutsu, summoning technique, that you shinobi use. It allows me to summon myself outside of my Jinchuriki host's body, but most of my chakra is left in your body," Kurami explained as Naruto nodded. "So, why are you out here?" Naruto asked curiously, said as he noticed Kahana was also in the room. "Naruto-kun, we're here to discuss a few things you should do, after you make it to the finals. And, I suggest you tell as few people as possible that you're not from this timeline." Kahana spoke in a serious tone of voice. Naruto nodded. "I wasn't planning on telling too many people about that anyways. I was only thinking about Jiji, the third Hokage, Ero Sennin, and maybe Kakashi, but that was about it," Naruto replied while his 2 very lovely tenants nodded. "Anyways, now you already know about Hagoromo Otsutsuki from your world, so I believe it's only fair to tell you how he was in this world. Even though you saw my memories, you still don't know the history. So, I believe it's important that I tell you this now, while we have the time," Kurami said before there was a knock at the door. Naruto climbed out of bed wearing nothing but a t-shirt and his boxer shorts, debating on whether he should ignore the person. Naruto opened the door, and it was none other than Gaara, the Ichibi Jinchuriki and son of the Cage. "Hello? How can I help you, Gaara?" Naruto spoke in a surprised tone. "The Ichibi wants me to speak with you, Uzumaki," Gaara said with a blank expression on his face. Naruto gained the confused expression on his face. Why would Shukaku want Gaara to speak with me? Naruto pondered for a second before gesturing for Naruto following man. Kurami could clearly sense her youngest brother inside this boy. She hadn't seen him since their father died. Naruto pulled up a chair as Gaara sat down, who stared at Naruto intently. Kurami decided to break the ice. "Shukaku, what brings you here?" Almost instantly after her comment, a small cloud of smoke appeared in the room, revealing a young handsome man with wild blonde and blue hair reaching his shoulders. He had black cursed seal markings all over its face, body, and tail. He only wore a pair of baggy pants and sandals. The sclera of his eyes was black, with yellow irises and pupils that each both the shape of a black four-pointed star with 4 black dots around it. "Kukakuku. Still acting like a princess, are we? Kekekeke. The reason why I'm here is because I swore I felt Oji-san, and I came to investigate." Shukaku replied in a sadistic, teasing tone. Kurami narrowed her eyes but sighed. "That would be my Jinchuriki Naruto. And Kahana-chan over there." She gestured towards Naruto and the new Jubi. Shukaku took one look at Naruto before raising an eyebrow. "I could have sworn you wore orange, and were much weaker." Shukaku took one look at Kahana before his whole body froze in place, swaying behind her worked 10 tails. That's impossible. The Jubi's supposed to be sealed away. And it's supposed to be male." Shukaku wailed out as he took a few steps back. Gaara seemed confused by the whole situation. "What do you mean by Jubi? Aren't there only 9 Biju?" Gaara spoke in a very confused tone. Naruto then volunteered himself to explain. "You see, I'm not the Naruto of this world. More or less Kahana and I were thrown into this world and I took over my counterpart's body," Naruto said as Shukaku and Gaara both looked at him as if he grew another head. "Anyways, the Jubi is the aggregate of all 9 Bijus fused together inside of the Gedo Mazo. In my world, the Jubi is the embodiment of Kaguya Otsutsuki combined with the Shinju, created to reclaim the chakra inherited by her sons, Hagoromo and Hamura. It was regarded as the progenitor of chakra, and is tied to the legend of the Rikudo Sennin and the birth of shinobi. He goes by multiple names: Jubi, Ain no Hitotsu no Kami, Dadara, or Daidarabachi," Naruto explained. Shukaku then glanced at Kahana began before looking back at Naruto. "Then what about her?" he spoke in a confused tone. Kahana spoke up. "Oh, I was not created from the Gedo Mazo if that's what you're asking. The 9 Bijus chose to fuse together to create me, so that I may be able to help Naruto-kun when he was fighting against Kaguya." Kahana finished as Shukaku nodded. Gaara then asked the question. "What about the Jubi of this world?" Kurami and Shukaku both looked at each other before nodding. "I think it'd be best if my Ne-sama told you, as I'm not really good with storytelling," Shukaku admitted in a bored tone. Kurami cleared her throat as she began to speak. "Ahem, about 2,000 years ago existed a being of immeasurable power. It went by the same names as Naruto stated earlier: Ain no Hitotsu no Kami, Dadara, Didarabachi, or just plain Jubi. It's unknown where he came from. Some say he was created by both Kami and Yami to maintain balance. Or if he came from a different dimension, or if he's the manifestation of nature itself, no one knows. Shortly after he arrived, he began guiding and shaping the world, almost as if he was terraforming it and preparing for something. Eventually he found a mortal bride. Her name was Kaguya Otsutsuki, the current princess and rightful heir of the Otsutsuki clan. From what Chi-Chi-Yu told us, it was love at first sight, and eventually Kaguya became pregnant and bared 2 sons, Hagoromo and Hamura Otsutsuki. Not only were they humans, but they were the first 2 humans to ever wield chakra, and the only 2 members from the Otsutsuki clan who were actually powerful and didn't have weak and frail bodies. Eventually Hagoromo and Hamura began wandering around the world passing chakra to everyone they met, as well as sharing knowledge for their wish of creating world peace. They called this religion Ninshu. For some reason, this angered the Jubi, so he began a mass genocide of the humans, He did this to reclaim his power which his sons, in his own mind, foolishly shared with these lesser beings. Hagoromo and Hamura were absolutely disgusted by their father's reaction, but what pushed them really over the edge is when their father killed Kaguya, his own wife. This started an all-out war between father and sons. The battle lasted days until Hamura was fatally injured. One can only imagine the type of emotions Chi-Chi-Yu must have gone through, especially when Hamura transferred the remainder of his power to his elder brother. After that, Hamura died as his chakra converged with Hagoromo's, awakening the Rinnegan. This dojutsu gave him the edge he needed to defeat his weakened father. Victorious, Chi-Chi-Yu sealed his father inside of himself. This made him the first Jinchuriki. Being the Jinchuriki and slayer of his father, everyone revered him as a god for his victory over the Jubi. Years later, Hagoromo separated his father's chakra within his body using his signature ability, the creation of all things, ability to divide it into 9 separated bodies, creating us, the 9 Biju. At our births he gave us each a name. We grew up alongside his 2 sons Ashura and Indra. Many years later Hagoromo hadn't aged all, but the moment he removed his father's husk from his body and sealed it, creating the celestial body we all know as the moon as the container, his body rapidly aged and he sadly passed away shortly afterwards. Kurami finished wiping away a few tears of sadness. Shukaku may have not had tears in his eyes, but he was obviously depressed after hearing that story. Shukaku then looked towards his sister and her host Jinchuriki host and Kahana. I think I should inform you now, Gaara's father is planning an invasion with Orochimaru to destroy Konoha. Shukaku spoke in a serious tone. Naruto looked towards the Shukaku. Yeah, I already know that, but thanks for the heads up, but whose side are you on? Naruto asked while Shukaku frowned. I don't really get to decide, go figure. It's my Jinchuriki's choice, so should you ask him instead of me? I could say I would be on your side, but Gaara may be forced to fight you. Do you understand what I mean? Shukaku said in a non-humorous tone. Naruto then looked towards Gaara, who was now wearing his usual emotionless expression. Gaara, whose side are you on? Naruto asked. Gaara didn't respond immediately. I've always been told to fight, to prove my existence by killing. What could you possibly offer me? I'm quite content with my life right now. Gaara spoke in the emotionless tone, which in the distance Naruto heard a slap and a wail of pain. It was most likely Kurami slapping Shukaku for whatever reason. Naruto gave a small smile. How about friendship? Just like you, I've been that lonely dark place, it hurts, doesn't it? Being ignored, no one wants you around, even your own family fears you. Gaara, I'm a Jinchuriki like you. I understand your pain better than anyone. Naruto explained, hoping that the young redheaded would listen to him. He did not want to have to force genjutsu on his fellow Jinchuriki. Then why didn't you turn out like me? One where you prove your existence through killing others, that's where, true strength. Gaara was cut off by Naruto as he raised a hand. That's your father talking, not you. Gaara, true strength comes from the desire to protect those who are precious to you. When you have something worth fighting for, you become truly strong. I fight for everyone I care about, Kahana-chan, Kurami-chan, Jiji, Ero Sennin, Kakashi-sensei, and many others. That is where my strength comes from, and I'm pretty sure you have people care about you to your brother and sister. Naruto said in a prideful tone. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but we could start out like this. Hi, my name is Uzumaki Naruto and I'd like to be your friend. Naruto said with a warm smile on his face. Gaara's eyes widened at Naruto's little announcement. Looking down at Naruto's hand, Gaara felt his hand twitch. Shukaku stood up to the side, nursing the giant bump on the side of his head. For my sake, Gaki, take the damn offer. I don't want to get beaten up by my Ne-sama anymore. Shukaku complained. Gaara nodded to Shukaku before taking Naruto's hand firmly and shaking it. I'm Sabaku no Gaara, and will you teach me what it means to be a friend? Gaara said in a confused tone, as Naruto's face faltered. Well, it's a start at least. I can just get him and his siblings on my side. Then we can turn the tide of this invasion greatly. Naruto thought to himself. Kahana and Kurami smiled at Naruto's little bonding moment with Shukaku's Jinchuriki host Gaara. Time skip, the beginning of the preliminary rounds. Naruto felt greatly annoyed as he ignored the stares he received from most of the people watching. Without exception, the crowd of people were either wondering who he was, or why did he change so much? It was obvious that most of the people had heard what happened in the Forest of Death from the gossip queen Ino. Naruto wished he could turn invisible as this was rather annoying, but he really couldn't blame them for staring at him, but he wished they would stop. Naruto took a moment to survey all the different teams, and it was the same as his original timeline. Without counting his team, there are 5 other teams in total that had made it past the second stage, most of which were the rookie genin teams like his own. This left only 2 other teams, the Auto team and Gaara's team. Naruto then turned his focus back to the area around him. They were in a large theater, battle arena. That resembled some type of tournament, training area. He, along with the other genin, were currently standing on a stone-tiled surface. Up in front of them was none other than Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was currently standing on the cage platform. Behind Hiruzen were the proctors Anko and Ibiki, who were looking out amongst the crowd. The Chunin sensei were also among them, along with the few Chunin who were acting as judges. Anko groaned as she looked at all the genin who passed the second stage. Out of 78 people that we started with, 21 of them actually made in time. When I said I was gonna cut them in half, I was thinking more along the lines of single digits. Anko sighed before her eyes landed on the blonde black-haired genin. The only thing that's really bugging me is who that is. I heard a rumor from that blonde-haired idiot had transformation in the forest? But he never looked like this. Anko continued to ponder. It's truly remarkable that so many made it, and for so many of them to be rookies is nothing short of astonishing. Hiruzen eyed the Chunin squad leaders. It's no wonder they were all nominated. Hiruzen's gaze landed on where Naruto was supposed to be. In his place was a bit more mature-looking Naruto with black and blonde hair. Naruto detected Hiruzen staring at him. This was the perfect moment that Naruto had been waiting for. Naruto quickly met the Sandame's eyes before quickly manifesting his Sharingan for a split second. Hiruzen completely froze at the eye in Naruto's left eye socket, and before the old Hokage could even take his eyes off Naruto, he felt the pull of Genjutsu. Naruto's mindscape. What is this place? Hiruzen asked as he found himself in a rather luxurious room. Luckily, the old Hokage didn't have to wait long, as the sliding door to his side opened, revealing Naruto smiling at the old man. Welcome to my mindscape. It's a place where I can speak to you without anyone interrupting us. So please follow me. There's some people I want you to meet. Naruto gestured as Hiruzen followed him out of the room. Naruto led Hiruzen down the hallways before they came to a large set of sliding doors. Giving a gentle knock, Naruto heard Kurami and Kahana say, "Come in." Hiruzen raised an eyebrow hearing 2 female voices from the opposite room. Naruto opened the door, which Hiruzen nearly fainted at what he saw. Kurami and Kahana were both sitting at the round table, peacefully drinking tea with their biju features showing ears, tails, claws, and fangs. Naruto walked over and sat down on his designated seiza pillows, to which Kahana passed Naruto a cup of tea. Hiruzen stood there like a deer caught in headlights, unable to move, unable to speak. "Gigi, we have lots to discuss." Hiruzen sighed before muttering out, "I'm getting too old for this shit." As Naruto and his 2 biju chuckled at the old man's response. Kurami stood up and bowed to the old Hokage. "Greetings Sarutobi Hiruzen. I'm Otsutsuki Kurami, the Kyuubi and eldest daughter of Otsutsuki Hagoromo, the Rikudo Sennin." Kurami spoke in an elegant manner before sitting back down. Kahana then stood up and bowed as well. "It is a pleasure to meet you Sarutobi Hiruzen. I'm Otsutsuki Kahana and I was born from the collaboration of the 9 bijus fusing together." Kahana also spoke in an elegant manner before sitting back down. Hiruzen seemed completely calm as he took a sip of tea, before gently placing the cup back down the table. Hiruzen looked towards Naruto and began to flip out. "Naruto-kun, what the hell is going on?" Naruto chuckled at the elderly man. "Calm down Gigi, I said I'll explain everything to you. Plus, I believe this would have been the best way to tell you," Naruto said while Hiruzen's eye twitched violently. "Well, start explaining." Hiruzen was not in the mood for games. He was now sitting in front of the Kyuubi and most possibly the Jubi. But what baffled Hiruzen the most was why weren't they behind the cage? This meant they could corrupt Naruto much easier, or so he thought. Naruto sighed and began to explain the events leading up to Kaguya's resurrection, and how he and Sasuke had been battling her for who knows how long. This was followed by the death of Sasuke, the creation of Kahana, and his resurgence into this world. Naruto also explained about the invasion Orochimaru was planning, as well as telling Hiruzen that he befriended Gaara, Shukaku's Jinchuriki. Naruto-kun, I will not tell a soul about this. I will treat this as a SSS rank secret punishable by death. But I can only assume that you will be telling Jiraiya about this as well. Naruto nodded, Hiruzen sighed. And I can only assume that you already know about your parents. Naruto nodded at this. I do not blame you for what you did, Gigi. You did what you thought was best. When Jiraiya comes, I will explain everything to him as well. Hiruzen nodded, accepting Naruto's answer before asking the question that was on his mind. Naruto-kun, how do I get out of here, Naruto-kun? Naruto gave an amused chuckle as he grinned before he poked Hiruzen in the forehead. Hiruzen vanished from sight as Naruto gave his goodbyes to Kahana and Kurami. Real world. Hiruzen felt his consciousness returning. Luckily only a few seconds passed in the real world. This is a rather interesting turn of events, for better or worse I do not know. Hiruzen thought to himself. To everyone who made it this far, congratulations on passing the second stage of the Chunin exams. Anko said. Listen carefully as Hokage-sama will explain how the third stage of these exams works. Before I explain the third stage of the exams to you, there's something I would like you all to know. Hiruzen said, the true reason for these exams. That little speech seemed to catch many of the Chunin hopefuls off guard. The only one who didn't seem to be caught off guard was Naruto. As he had already heard this speech from his original timeline twice in fact, so he zoned out the sandame for the time being. Kurami-chan, this something I want to ask you, Naruto asked politely. And what might that be, Naruto? Kurami replied almost instantly. Naruto was curious what kind of abilities she possessed, as Kurama only possessed negative emotion sensing and high-speed regeneration. What kind of abilities or powers do you have other than negative emotion sensing and high-speed regeneration? What kind of powers do your siblings have too? Naruto asked curiously. Yes, I'm also curious about that as well, Kurami-chan? Kahana added her 2 cents into the conversation. Kurami was slightly surprised by Naruto's question. You really are a strange human, are you? To answer your questions, yes. We do, each of us has our own unique abilities. Single quote. So, I'm guessing that the Bijus of this world also have special abilities. What are they exactly? Naruto asked as Kahana nodded, also curious. After all, Naruto and Kahana knew very little of the Bijus in this world. Kurami tapped her chin a few times. My youngest brother Shukaku is a master of wind, earth, which allows them to manipulate sand. He's also a master of curse seals and is able to generate extremely powerful magnetic forces. Single quote. Next up is my adorable little sister Matabi. She could generate extremely powerful and hot blue flames. She's also the Shinigami's apprentice, so she has the ability of necromancy. Kurami said. Hold on a second? Did you just say necromancy? That's like the Edo Tensei, right? Naruto asked, slightly confused. Kurami sighed. Yes, more or less. The only difference is she doesn't need to sacrifice. As long as the Shinigami hasn't consumed their soul, she can revive them. Naruto nodded. So, kami actually exist? Then again, who might a judge? Naruto said as Kurami snorted in amusement. Isobu is a master of water manipulation that makes your Nidaime Hokage look like a novice, is also able to generate and manipulate coral. Son Goku can manipulate cyan fire and earth, which gives them the ability to create lava. Kakuo can generate steam by mixing fire and water together. Saiken can generate and produce acid and poison, as well as form bubbles out of her slime. Chome could generate scale powder, fly, and can summon and control insects to attack with. Gyuki is the only Biju able to manipulate lightning. He's also the most physically strong and an expert in swordplay, and he can also produce ink. Kurami said before taking a quick breath. It gets things dirty quickly. And what about you, Kurami-chan? Kahana asked curiously. As Naruto has already stated before, I have the ability to sense negative emotions as well as utilize high-speed regeneration. That's not all I can do though. I am able to manipulate both fire and wind, allowing me to use Scorch Release. I'm also proficient at utilizing Senjutsu and produce some pretty powerful Genjutsu, but the one thing that I pride myself on more than anything else is my Ki Release. Kurami spoke with pride in her voice as he puffed out her chest. Key release? Both Naruto and Kahana both said the same time. Yes, it's something that only I know how to do at the moment. Would you like to learn how to do it, Kahana-chan? Kurami asked cutely. I guess I would like to learn, but what about Naruto-kun? Kahana asked, not one to leave him out of the loop. I'll teach him, but he has to earn it. Luckily for him, I don't think that that's going to be much of a problem. Besides, he doesn't seem to be the type who likes to be having things handed to him. Am I right, Naruto-kun? Kurami put a little seductive edge when she said Naruto's name. Kahana simply giggled while Naruto blushed. Kurami then looked at Kahana and asked her question. Kahana-chan, I'm curious what kind of abilities you have. Kahana seemed quiet for a second before she spoke. Well, I can fly, I can manipulate all 5 changes in chakra nature. I can cause natural disasters. I can utilize senjutsu. And I can create as many Truthseeker balls as I want. And I can utilize the Rinne Sharingan. Kahana listed off her abilities one by one. Oops, I think Gigi's done with his speech. I gotta go, Naruto hastily said before disappearing. Naruto snapped back into reality as Hiruzen finished his speech. Naruto didn't even get a chance to hear the rest of the conversation between Kahana and Kurami. Before we begin the test, there is something I must tell you. Hiruzen looked at the genin standing below him. Before Hiruzen could speak, a sickly man made himself known. Actually, Hokage-sama, as the proctor, please allow me to explain the match, said the sickly Chunin who appeared crouching before the sandame. Very well then, please proceed, Hiruzen said with a nod, taking a step back. The man turned around and Naruto could not believe that this man was still on duty. The man looked like he was about to fall over at any moment. He was dressed in the uniform of the standard Chunin with his forehead protector on his head. He also had a sword strapped to his back. Naruto began to wonder why the members of the hospital hadn't tried to apprehend this man. It was obvious he was in no condition to proctor the Chunin exams. Hello everyone, I'm Gecko Hayate. Before we can begin the third test, I need to inform you that there will be a preliminary round. Why do we have a preliminary? Said the confused, pink-haired Banshee. Why can't all the people who made it this far continue? Naruto's hand twitched. He had to resist the urge to hit her upside the head. Just how stupid is she? Naruto thought to himself. Oofufufu. I must agree with you, Naruto. Your counterpart was stupid enough to like her, also stupid enough to overlook her own stupidity. Kurami spoke in a humorous tone. Naruto's eye twitched. Oh, I'm so glad you have so much faith in me, Kurami-chan. Naruto replied in a sarcastic tone, while Kahana giggled. Hayate coughed into his hand as he looked over at Sakura for a moment before explaining himself. Cough because the first 2 exams may have been too easy this year, we just have too many people. According to the rules of the Chunin exam, we must hold a preliminary to reduce the number of people participating for the third test. As Hokage-sama stated, there will many prominent guests attending, and if the fights take too long we may run out of time. Anyways, for those of you who are not feeling well or those who like quitting, please step forward now, since we will be starting the preliminaries immediately. Kabuto stepped forward as he raised his hand. Proctor-san, I quit. Hayate nodded. Very well then, you may go. Naruto and Hiruzen already knew that Kabuto was Orochimaru's little spy. Hiruzen gestured for a few Anbu to follow him after the preliminaries ended. With Kabuto gone, Hayate turned to the rest of the genin to see if any others wanted to quit. When it was clear that they were not, he began to explain the rules of the preliminary to them. Basically, the matches would be one-on-one. The fight would continue until someone was unconscious, gave up, or was killed. The names of who would be fighting were decided randomly and shown by an electronic screen on the wall above and behind the Hokage. Once the rules were explained, the screen shuffled through names before landing on 2 names. The board began cycling through names, before finally coming to a stop. Will Uchiha Sasuke vs Akado Yoroi please step forward? The rest of you please go up to the balconies. Hayate commanded. As instructed, everyone left the arena except Sasuke and Yoroi, who were staring at each other. This fight went the same as it did in canon. Winner, Uchiha Sasuke. Medic, Hayate said as Sasuke currently laid on the ground panting heavily. It took the remainder of his chakra to suppress the curse seal. Kakashi quickly used Shunshin over to Sasuke's barely conscious self before scooping him up and taking him to the hospital. The board once again began to change names, before stopping at Zaku and Shino. Will Ibumi Zaku and Aburame Shino please come down to the battle arena? Hayate called out as Zaku and Shino both made their way down to the arena. This fight went the same as it did in canon. The winner by knockout is Aburame Shino. Medic, called out as Hayate as Shino calmly made his way up the stairs back up to the balcony where his team was. The board once again ran through names, before stopping again at the next combatants. Will Tsurugi Masumi and Sabaku no Kankuro please come down to the battle arena? Hayate called out as Masumi and Kankuro both made their way down to the arena. This fight went the same as it did in canon. The winner by knockout is Sabaku no Kankuro. Medic, called out as Hayate as Kankuro gave an arrogant smirk as he made his way up the stairwell and back to his team on the balcony. Next to stand in the center of the arena, surrounded by eyes of Jonin and Genin alike, were the two, Kunoichi, of Team 7 and 10. Will Haruno Sakura and Yamanaka Ino please come down to the battle arena? Hayate called out as Sakura and Ino both made their way down to the arena. This fight went the same as it did in canon. There is no way this round is a double knockout. No winner, Medic. Hayate spoke in a disappointed tone at the pathetic display of skills that the two Kunoichi fangirls displayed. He wasn't the only one disappointed, so was the entire stadium. Man Kakashi, did you teach her anything? It was absolutely pathetic. Even Ino attempted to learn from me, Asuma muttered to himself, which was loud enough for Kakashi to hear, who only responded by put his head down in shame. Next up, Tenten and Tamari. Will Higurashi Tenten vs Sabaku no Tamari please come down to the battle arena? Hayate called out as Tenten and Tamari both made their way down to the arena. This fight went the same as it did in canon. The winner by knockout is Sabaku no Tamari. Medic, called out as Hayate as Tamari simply smirked before making their way back to her team who waiting for her on the balcony. Even though Tenten was completely destroyed in battle, it still washed the bad taste out of everyone's mouth caused by the previous battle. Will Nara Shikamaru and Tsuchi Kin please come down to the battle arena? Hayate called out as Shikamaru and Kin both made their way down to the arena. This fight went the same as it did in canon. The winner by knockout is Nara Shikamaru. Medic, called out as Hayate as Shikamaru sighed before muttering, troublesome, as he made his way back to his team at a lazy pace. Next, was the battle who everyone expected to be a landslide victory. Will Uzumaki Naruto and Hyuga Neji please come down to the battle arena? Hayate called out. Naruto's eyes widened slightly. He was expecting to fight against Kiba, not Neji. Well, this was unexpected, but I guess I can knock some sense into them now. Because I probably would kill him if he hurt her again, Naruto thought to himself as he made his way down to the battle arena. Naruto and Neji began with a stare down, neither one of them dared to move. Neji drew an arrogant smirk across his face. Why don't you just give up, a failure like you cannot fight against fate? Because fate has already decided that I will be the winner of this match. Neji announced to the world, before his eyes began to twitch in annoyance. Naruto wasn't paying attention to him. Naruto then blinked at Neji with a bored expression. "HN, did you say something?" Naruto asked in a clueless tone. Up in the balcony, Kurani's eyebrow twitched in annoyance as she looked back at Kakashi, before looking towards Asuma and Guy. "We must save him. Kakashi has already begun to corrupt him." Kuranai yelled out in fear. Kakashi's sweat dropped. "I have done no such thing. I don't even know where he got that from." Kakashi spoke in an innocent tone. Kuranai's eye twitched furiously. "We won't let you corrupt anyone. The last thing we need is another Kakashi running around, being 3 hours late to everywhere he goes, and reading those pornographic novels you read in public." Kuranai yelled once more as she attempted to jump at Kakashi but was held in place by Asuma. "Damn it, Asuma, release me," the red-eyed Genjutsu mistress yelled out. "Not until you come down." Asuma tried to calm down his love interest. All the while Might Guy was more focused on the match. Naruto-kun seems different. Let's see how he fares against Neji. Guy thought to himself, completely ignoring everything other than the fight. At least Kakashi's oldest rival wasn't making fun of him. Down in the battle arena. "You know, you talk a lot about destiny and fate, and all I hear is you asking to be shut up by someone. Try removing the kunai from your behind and lighten up." Naruto announced as some of the shinobi up on the balcony started to laugh. Neji gritted his teeth in anger. Say what you want, but you're still a failure and fate has decided me as the winner of this match. Neji roared in anger before charging at Naruto, with his Byakugan blazing to life. Naruto sighed as he sidestepped Neji's first strike before tripping him. Neji hit the ground face first, and growled as he pushed himself back up. Neji, you're speaking about fate as if it's something that actually exists? Naruto said in a calm tone. Of course, it exists, it's what binds us and forces us to follow the path it has set up before us. Neji growled before getting back up into another battle stance. Naruto shook his head. You are complete idiot. Why is everyone who is born into a clan full of dojutsu users always turns out to be such maniacs obsessed with random things like fate? If things don't turn out better, you could end up just like the Uchiha. Naruto declared as everyone's including Neji's eyes widened at Naruto's choice of words. Hinata on the other hand up in the balcony gained a sad look in her eyes. What did you just say? Neji growled. Naruto gave a smirk. The Hyuga and Uchiha are much closer than you would think, dangerously close if you catch my drift. Naruto spoke in a cryptic tone. Neji narrowed his eyes at the blonde-haired young man standing before him. What are you talking about? You're making no sense. How could a loser and failure like you know something like this? Neji yelled in anger and confusion. Naruto shook his head as he gave a hollow chuckle. You see, both the Hyuga and Uchiha are like brother and sister. They both came from the same clan. The Otsutsuki clan is responsible for both clans coming into existence. Naruto said before dropping into a battle stance himself. Enough talking, Neji. Allow me to show you that fate is something that people like you come up with, when you're either too weak-willed or too stupid to overcome the hardships that life dealt you. Naruto spoke. With that, both Konoha shinobi charged at each other, meeting in the middle, and immediately Naruto began throwing punches and kicks, while Neji began countering with his palm strikes. Naruto effortlessly blocked and dodged all Neji's attempts at attacks, while Neji got hit by nearly half of all the hands Naruto sent out. Neji delivered a powerful palm straight to the side of Naruto's face, which Naruto countered by ramming his fist into Neji's stomach. Neji grunted as he hunched over holding his aching stomach. Naruto then delivered a kick to the side of Neji's face. The strikes resulted in the dark brown-haired boy to roll across the ground. Neji eventually came to a stop. As he laid on his back, a shadow loomed over his face as his eyes widened, when he saw Naruto coming down with a stomp aimed directly at his head. This stomp shattered the ground, fortunately for the Hyuga prodigy, usable to dodge in time and flip onto his feet. Neji jumped backwards, creating some distance in between him and Naruto. This makes absolutely no sense. How can a failure like him overwhelm me in taijutsu, something not even Lee could do? Neji thought to himself with his eyes widened. Up in the balcony, Might Guy had a look of amazement on his face. Kakashi, my eternal rival, I had no idea you had such a star pupil. The flames of youth burned strongly in him. Guy spoke with his voice filled with approval. Kakashi on the other hand couldn't tear his eyes away from Naruto. This is all wrong. I know something happened to them in the Forest of Death, but this was absolutely ridiculous. His level of taijutsu is far above my own. Even I couldn't take on a Hyuga single-handedly. Kakashi thought to himself. Guy, I never taught him anything like this. What you're seeing is something I've never seen before. Kakashi said in a grim tone. Asuma raised an eyebrow in confusion. So, what you're telling us is you never trained him? Asuma said with a look of disapproval on his face. Kakashi shook his head. I never said that. What I'm saying is I never taught him this level of taijutsu. Matter of fact, I didn't start teaching him taijutsu until a couple weeks ago. The only person who could have taught him this level of taijutsu would be Guy. Kakashi explained while all of the Chunin and Genin looked towards Guy. I never taught him anything, but if he would have come to me I would have gladly helped him refine his taijutsu. Guy admitted aloud. Then how did the Dobi get so good in taijutsu then? Kiba asked in a confused tone, as he watched Naruto literally dominating over Neji. I think I have an idea? Shikamaru spoke aloud. What do you mean, Shikamaru? Asuma asked. Sometime before we dealt with the Oto shinobi in the Forest of Death, something must have happened in Naruto. Because when he woke up he annihilated the Oto shinobi we fought against. He had two different dojutsu and Sasuke claimed that he had the Sharingan. Shikamaru revealed. Asuma, Guy, Kakashi, and Kurenai's eyes widened at this. Yeah, it looked creepy and awesome, it made him look stronger. Choji exclaimed in an excited tone, as Asuma couldn't help but chuckle. Lee looked down at Naruto back to Neji. I look forward to fighting you in the finals, Naruto. Lee thought to himself as a smile appeared on his lips. Down on the battle arena. Neji thrusted his palm forward. Hake Kushisho, 8 trigrams vacuum palm, sending out a blast of air aimed for Naruto's head, who simply tilted his head to the side, dodging it completely. Naruto then turned his attention back to Neji. Are you done yet? Because this battle is starting to get very boring. I have more of a challenge cleaning my apartment than fighting with you. Naruto admitted trying to get under the Hyuga prodigy skin, which worked surprisingly well. Neji snarled before being down in a specific fighting stance, which caused all the Chunin, Hiruzen, Lee and Hinata's eyes to widen. Hake Rokuge Yu Yan Shisho, 8 trigrams 64 palms, they all thought in unison. Neji smirked. I hope you're ready, as I'm about to put you back in the bottom where you belong. Neji yelled as he charged forward. 2 palms. Naruto effortlessly began dodging Neji's strikes, has looked more like Naruto was dancing around him than anything else. 4 palms, 8 palms, 16 palms, 32 palms. Neji was getting more and more frustrated, as none of his attacks from landing. Hake Rokuju Yan Sho, 8 trigrams 64 palms. Everyone up in the balcony was in absolute awe, as Naruto avoided every single strike. Now what was that you were saying about me being a failure? Naruto spoke in a joking manner. Neji growled as he reached into his ninja pouch, pulling out a kunai, twirling around his fingers before Naruto pulled out his own kunai, blocking it. Naruto then knocked the kunai into the air with his own kunai, before advancing towards the Neji. Neji jumped into the air, flipping as the heel of his foot hit the kunai, which then struck Naruto's face. Naruto retaliated by punching Neji in the face, causing the boy to stagger backwards. The gash on Naruto's face closed almost instantly. Naruto began waving hand seals. Inhaling a large amount of air, Naruto spat out a large blue fireball. Kaden. Go Kakyu no Jutsu, fire release, great fireball technique. Once again Naruto caught everyone by surprise, as they thought the only ninjutsu he possessed was Kage Bunshin. Neji's eyes widened as he dodged the fireball, which exploded, sending debris and dust flying everywhere. Neji recovering just in time to see Naruto running towards him. Naruto jumped into the air, quickly placing his hands on Neji's shoulders before driving him directly into the ground. Neji quickly jumped up only to get kicked in the face by Naruto. Neji jumped back up onto his feet, fueled by anger and rage. He wanted nothing more than to end Naruto. However, that wish would not come to fruition. In a quick motion, Naruto jumped up, wrapping his leg around the Neji's body and slamming into the ground once more. I think you're overdoing it, Naruto-kun. Kahana spoke to her host, love interest. I didn't think Sasuke's influences would affect me this much, but Neji needed to get knocked off the hill put himself up on. Naruto replied. Kurami snorted. Knocking him off a hill? It's more like you blew up the hill and let him fall. Kurami giggled in amusement. She was enjoying this Naruto much more than the previous one. Naruto rolled his eyes as he delivered a powerful kick that could crack full-grown trees in half to Neji's stomach, which sent the Hyuga prodigy flying into the wall. Naruto winced as he saw Neji fall to the ground, knocked out cold. Hayate stood there with a look of pure shock. Proctor-san, I believe he's knocked out and I think I won? Naruto spoke in a sheepish tone as he scratched his cheek nervously. Hayate snapped out of his little spell before nodding and walking over to Neji. Winner by knockout, Uzumaki Naruto. Medic. Hayate announced as the medic Nin quickly carried Neji off to the hospital. Temari and Kankuro both were sporting looks of pure shock and disbelief, while Gaara remained silent. So that is the power that one gains from protecting something that's precious to them? Is that the case, I have a long way to go. Gaara thought to himself as Shukaku nodded in agreement. That you do, Gaki, that you do. Shukaku replied in agreement. Temari's whole body shivered. You have to be kidding me. That's seriously the same little twerp that was wearing that obnoxiously bright orange jumpsuit. What the hell happened to him? Temari all but yelled in surprise. How the hell am I supposed to combat this guy? I just hope I don't have to fight because that would be one hell of a brutal fight. Kankuro replied to his sister's comments. Sighing, Naruto made his way up the stairs back up to the balcony, to where he was confronted by Kakashi. Naruto. Kakashi spoke in a stern tone with his single eye narrowed. Yes, Kakashi-sensei? Who taught you how to fight like that, and is it true that you have the Sharingan? Kakashi wanted to get the bottom of this. If you want to know the answer, meet me in Oji-san's office after the preliminary rounds. As I'm not at liberty to say, due to this being a SSS rank secret, punishable by death. But I will tell you this is tied to what happened to me in the Forest of Death. Naruto explained. Kakashi's single eye widened in surprise. SSS rank secret. Just what the hell happened in the Forest of Death? Kakashi began to ponder. Oh, and Kakashi-sensei. Naruto said, to which snapped Kakashi out of his train of thought before he turned around. Yeah? He replied in a confused tone. Make sure you come alone. Naruto said just as Sakura and Ino returned from the infirmary. The board once again changed to the next battle. Will Hyuga Hinata and Akamichi Choji please come down to the battle arena? Hayate called out as Hinata and Choji got kind of scared, but nonetheless they both made their way down. As soon as the proctor started the match, Hinata activated her Byakugan before getting into a battle stance. Choji began to shiver in fear before entering his Nakuden Sensha, human bullet tank, in a very sloppy manner. Choji started to spin, moving at a great speed towards Hinata. Hinata carefully watched him approach before dodging to the side and placing her foot directly in front of Choji's path. This very action made Choji rise into the air, causing him to end his technique and allowing Hinata to deliver a few decent Juken strikes which left Choji unconscious on the ground. Hayate pretty much already knew Hinata won. Winner by knockout Hyuga Hinata. Medic, Hayate announced. Next up, was the Taijutsu Genin against the Inuzuka Genin. Will Inuzuka Kiba and Rock Lee please come down to the battle arena? Hayate called out as Kiba and Lee both made their way down to the arena. Yes, finally is my turn. Kiba-kun, are you ready to show them the power of youth? Lee howled, and making everyone winced in pain at how loud his tone truly was. Yes, that a boy Lee, show Kiba-kun the power of youth. He will make a fine eternal rival for you. Guy yelled. Kiba was sporting a horrified expression on his face. What? Was all the dog user could mutter. Yes, Guy-sensei, I will show him the power of youth. Lee replied. Lee, Guy-sensei. Lee, Guy-sensei. Both student and master moved in and hugged each other, as the background completely morphed into a beach as the water came rushing between them and crashing into the rocks. Tears could be seen shining as the sun was going down. Many people screamed in terror as they felt their eyes begin to burn. Kurenai was desperately trying to dispel it. Despite her best efforts, it did not work. Why? Why isn't it working? Why can't I dispel it? She thought to herself. She never had a problem dispelling genjutsu before. Hell, she was renowned for her powerful genjutsu, and is considered the strongest genjutsu user in the Leaf since Itachi left. Fortunately, before anyone could do anything drastic such as commit seppuku to save themselves from the horror of being exposed to the horrifying sunset genjutsu that was created from the two hugging and clones. A bolt of power, chaotic blue lightning, forced the two to separate. Everyone turned around and saw Naruto with sparks of electricity dancing around his hand, while his index finger was still smoking from the lightning-based attack, glaring at the pair with an extremely annoyed expression. If you two could please not do that while we're in the middle of the preliminary rounds, I'd be thankful. Naruto requested, unaware of Kahana and Kurami, who was blushing at Naruto, for many reasons: power, authority, seriousness, etc. To prove how serious he was, his entire hand glue in that blue-tinted electric aura. So please don't hurt anyone else's eyes anymore, Naruto said, receiving two fearful nods from the self-proclaimed green and blue beasts of Konoha. Naruto lowered his hand as he smiled, before noticing everyone was staring at him. Why are you all staring at me like that? Naruto said as everyone quickly looked away from him besides Hiruzen and Kakashi, who sent him a thankfully glances. Is this the power he awakened during the second stage of the Chunin exams? Kakashi wondered to himself. It would be best if I didn't tell Sasuke about this, mainly for his safety. Little arrogant bastard believes he is entitled to everything. What happened to you, Naruto-kun? You weren't ever like this before? Hinata thought to herself in a frightened manner. Jesus Christ, I'm glad I won't have to fight him. Temari, Kankuro, Kiba all thought in unison. Ka-chan was right, Naruto Baka is a monster. Everyone's favorite pink-haired banshee thought to herself. Hey, looks like my Ne-sama Jinchuriki is stronger than I thought? Cuckoo. Well Gaki, you really got your work cut out for you. I suggest you take his advice and train with him when you get the chance. Shukaku advised his Jinchuriki. Yes, I agree. It's what I have to do if I want to protect those who are precious to me. I'm going to need your power in order to do so, Gaara replied. Wow Naruto, you've impressed me quite a bit. Maybe after these preliminaries over, I can give you head tilde. Kurami purred in a seductive tone. Naruto mentally choked on his spit. What was that? He replied as his cheeks were dusted red. Kahana on the other hand was blushing as well. Kurami-chan, please don't joke around like that. Suki spoke, believing that her fellow Biju always joking. Who said anything about me joking around, Kahana-chan? Or maybe Naruto would prefer watching some Yuri action instead? Kurami giggled out as she saw Kahana's nose began to bleed. Naruto on the other hand, his face now rivaled that of Hinata's. Please, can we discuss this at another time? Naruto said before cutting the connection, so he can concentrate on watching. Down on the battle arena. Oi, you bushy-eyebrowed freak. Get ready for the beating of your life. Kiba howled in a taunting manner while Akamaru gave a small bark. Kiba's taunt did not faze Lee in the slightest as he took a fighting stance. Do not worry Kiba-kun, I will fight with everything I got. So that my flames of youth shall burn brightly. Lee responded with complete confidence. Hayate backed away from the two genin, as Lee charged at the Inuzuka and Ninken, at an incredible speed that left them in shock. Thanks to Kiba's advanced senses and reaction speed, he manages to block the kick with both his arms, although he was forced back a few meters. Kiba grunted in pain as he felt the bones in his arms crack from the force of impact. Ah, mother, what the hell your legs made out of? Kiba yelled as his arms throbbed with pain. Lee was still in the same pose before lowering his leg and retook his fighting stance. Most excellent reflexes, Kiba-kun. To answer your second question, I train hard so that I can break the strongest trees and hardest stones I can find within Konoha's walls. The bowl-cut spandex-wearing shinobi praised Kiba. Kiba took a step back as the pain in his arms finally subsided. I've seriously underestimated him. Looks like I have no choice. Akamaru, Kiba announced while Akamaru barked in agreement, reaching into his ninja pouch, pulling out 2 small brown pills. Up in the balcony. So, he's gone with that already, should be an interesting match? Naruto thought to himself. You're only saying that because you don't have to fight him. But then again, if you did fight them now you would annihilate him. Kurami answered in a bored tone. That's mean, Kurami, could you be a little bit nicer? Naruto asked. And why should I? Humans see me and my kind as nothing more than power sources. Well, maybe not you, but everyone else does. Until I'm proven wrong, I'm not going to change even for you. Kurami harshly replied. So stubborn, I guess I have to beat some sense into you later. Replied Naruto, eye twitching. Kahana simply ignoring Naruto and Kurami's bickering, as she focused on the match. I hope Kiba-san wins. She thought herself as she was a wolf, and she wanted the Inuzuka to win. Those are soldier pills. What could he possibly be planning? Kakashi thought aloud. Sakura turned towards her sensei and raised an eyebrow. Soldier pills? The pink-haired banshee questioned curiously. Soldier pills are a special medicine that can restore and amplify a shinobi's chakra and stamina. Quite a few shinobi have them in case they're running low on chakra. Asuma answered. Wait, isn't that cheating? Sakura asked in a confused tone as she saw Kiba giving one of the pills to Akamaru. Naruto, Kahana, and Kurami along with all of the Chunin and Hiruzen mentally smacked themselves. Wow, she really is that stupid? They all thought in unison. Kakashi shook his head of all negative thoughts before answering. No, because they are categories as a shinobi tool just like kunai and shuriken. Kakashi explained as he saw Kiba eat the other one. But it's best to use them as a last resort, because consuming too many can result in negative effects from overusing them. And believe me, I've seen what happens, it's not very pleasant. Kakashi said, remembering one of his many Anbu missions. Down on the battle arena. Lee smirked before getting back into his battle stance as he looked at his opponent. This is getting interesting, he stated quietly. Both Kiba and Akamaru began to change slightly after swallowing the pills. Akamaru's hair turned more feral and a brownish red and began growling furiously, while Kiba's teeth were now turning canine-like and his nails became much sharper like claws. Kiba then dropped down on all fours. "Let's go, Akamaru," he growled in a beastly manner as the small dark red ninkin jumped on his back barking in equally beastly manner. Kiba then formed the tiger hand seal. Beast mimicry. Within an instant, the two were covered in smoke as Lee waited patiently so that he could fight Kiba at his best. As soon as the smoke cleared, revealing Akamaru had transformed into a carbon copy of his partner. Jujin Bunshin, beast human clone. Kiba and his doppelganger are declared in unison. Lee's smile grew even wider as he saw this. "Impressive, now let us fight more," he declared with excitement. "That a boy, Lee. Show your opponent the power of youth." Guy howled from up on the balcony, smiling and giving a thumb up. "Yes sir," Lee instantly responded with a salute. The doppelganger duo growled in response. "We'll end this now," Kiba declared while Akamaru growled and jumped off his partner. "Very well then, here I go," Lee responded as he charged at the duo. The two Kibas began to spin in place before charging at Lee. "Gatsu ga, Fang passing Fang," Kiba declared. Lee came to a full stop as he saw the two deadly twisters heading at him at alarming speed. Thanks to some quick footwork, he dodged the two twisters with minimal effort. The doppelganger duo didn't let up as they quickly stopped, before beginning another assault. They combined their two twisters into one large one, trying their best to minimize the space the bowl-cut spandex wearing genin could use to dodge. "You're done for now, you bushy eyebrowed freak," Kiba declared loudly. Unfortunately for the doppelganger duo, they were proven wrong as Lee jumped into the air before they could even contact him. Once in the air, Lee came down with a devastating dive kick towards Kiba's back. This caused the young Inuzuka to hack up blood as he impacted the ground from the tremendous force. This surprise attack left Kiba in an unconscious state, as Akamaru reverted back to his normal form before running towards his unconscious partner with concern. "Do not worry, Akamaru-san. I only struck him to knock him out," Lee spoke in a calm manner while taking a few deep breaths. Hayate walked towards the Inuzuka and saw that he was indeed unconscious. "The winner by knockout, Rock Lee. Medic," he declared while pointing at said boy. Next, was Gaara's first battle in that section of the exams. "Will Kinuta Dosu and Sabaku no Gaara please come down to the battle arena?" Hayate called out as Dosu and Gaara both made their way down to the arena. Gaara didn't hesitate as he sent out 10 shuriken he made with his sand towards the enemy. Dosu didn't expect such a sudden attack and then quickly. Dosu was quickly rising when he noticed his feet were caught by something. Looking down really quickly, he saw sand wrapping around his feet. Like a long tentacle, the sand swung Dosu from left to right before throwing him into the wall. The sand soon returned, leaving an unconscious Dosu stuck in the wall. "Winner by knockout, Sabaku no Gaara," Hayate spoke plainly after seeing such a quick battle during the final match of the preliminaries. The finals for this year's Chunin exam will be held in main arena in 1 month time. Here is the opponent list. Take a good look, Hayate spoke as he showed everyone a piece of paper in his hand. Hyuga Hinata vs Sabaku no Kankuro. Sabaku no Tamari vs Nara Shikamaru. Lee Rock vs Uchiha Sasuke. Sabaku no Gaara vs Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto had been laying on a large comfortable bed inside the master bedroom of his parents' home. In the seclusion on his new home, Naruto had changed his usual attire to a pair of shorts, as he had recently got out of the shower. Naruto was pleasantly surprised that Hiruzen was so willing to give him his parents' house, but then again, he wasn't complaining. Naruto was simply thinking about everything that had gone on earlier in between him, Kahana, Kurami, Hiruzen, Jariya, and Kakashi. Jariya and Kakashi's reactions weren't that surprising. Knowing that now his senseis were alive once again brought a smile to Naruto's face. Flashback. Naruto, followed by Kakashi, made their way to Hiruzen's office. Upon arriving at the Hokage mansion, the student and teacher duo continued on until they found the door separating them from Hiruzen. Naruto gently knocked on the door despite the protesting of the secretary, which he ignored. "You may enter," Hiruzen's voice sounded out from the other side. Upon opening the door, Naruto froze in his tracks. Standing on the other side of the room leaning up against the wall was a familiar tall man with waist-length spiky white hair tied in a ponytail and two shoulder-length bangs framing his face. There was a single red line under each of his eyes which ran vertically down to his cheeks. His usual attire is a green short shirt kimono and matching pants, under which he wore mesh armor that was visible at his wrists and ankles. He also wears handguards, a black belt, traditional Japanese wooden sandals, and a red haori with two yellow circles on each side. Naruto's eyes welled up with tears before he yelled out something much to the dismay of white-haired man. "Arrow Sennin!" Naruto cried out as he flew across the room and tackle-hugged Jiraiya to the ground. Hiruzen simply blinked a few times before bursting into a fit of uncontrollable laughter. That nickname suits him perfectly. Hiruzen thought to himself as he clenched his sides in pain from the laughter. Kakashi, on the other hand, simply stood there not knowing what to think, as he was unsure of how Naruto knew Jiraiya. How does he know Jiraiya-sama? More importantly, why does Jiraiya-sama allow him to call him such a name even if it suits them perfectly? Kakashi thought as his sweat dropped. Naruto's tears began to fall out onto his godfather green kimono, who was obviously uncomfortable by the entire interaction. Jiraiya looked at Hiruzen, who finally stopped laughing and watched the scene with a warm smile on his face. "Naruto, I believe that's enough for right now. You can hug Jiraiya-kun later, he isn't going anywhere for this month," Hiruzen said as Naruto hesitantly released Jiraiya from his death grip. "What was all that about Gaki?" Jiraiya asked in a confused tone. Naruto sighed as it was going to be a very long explanation, but it was only fair that both Arrow Sennin and Kakashi-sensei knew the truth. "Okay, what I'm about to tell you may be difficult for both of you to believe, but it's true. Ahem, Kachiyose no Jutsu." Naruto howled at the end before slamming his hand down to the ground. Within seconds, two clouds of smoke appeared in the room before dissipating, revealing two beautiful women with animal-like features. The first woman had red hair and 9 tails, the second woman had black hair and 10 tails. Jiraiya and Kakashi's eyes widened in pure fear and surprise. Reacting quickly, Jiraiya immediately pulled out a suppression seal and prepared to strike. "Jiraiya-kun, is no need for that, both are trustworthy. You'll be interested to find out why Kurami-san attacked the village." Hiruzen stopped his student from possibly getting himself killed. Jiraiya hesitantly stared at his sensei and only nodded before pocketing the seal. Naruto sighed before introducing the two women standing on either side of him. "This is Otsutsuki Kurami, and the black-haired beauty to my left is Otsutsuki Kahana. We have a lot to discuss, and what I must tell you is nothing but the truth. So please hold your questions until I'm done explaining." Naruto warned before he went to the lengthy explanation about the Akatsuki, 4th Great Ninja War, the Jubi, Obito and Madara, his and Sasuke's battle against Kaguya, and his resurgence into this world. After Naruto finished his tale of sorts, he looked at the facial expressions of Jiraiya and Kakashi. Jiraiya had a look up your shock, anger, disappointment, and regret, while Kakashi sported a look of regret, sadness, betrayal, and disappointment. Hiruzen decided to speak up. "I believe we should prepare for this invasion. It would be better to be safe than sorry." The old Hokage spoke in a very serious tone, which brought Jiraiya and Kakashi both out of their funk. Sighing heavily, Jiraiya nodded in agreement. "I guess you're right, sensei. So Nagato was still alive, why would he turn out like this?" Naruto answered immediately. "In my original timeline, it was Kaguya who is to blame for everything, but in this world, I'm not completely sure. Because from what Kurami-chan told me, she wasn't that strong, so something else is at work here," Naruto said in a serious tone. "But I can only assume that the masked man could still be Obito, but he could be a different man for all we know." Kakashi simply put his head down in shame. "This is all my fault. I couldn't protect Rin, and now all my failure is coming back to bite me on the ass." Kakashi thought to himself in a depressed manner. Kurami, Kahana, and Naruto all sensed Kakashi's depression. "Pervy Cyclops, you are not the one to blame for what happened. So, stop beating yourself up, and start focusing on the here and now." Kurami spoke in an uncaring, blunt tone. Kakashi, on the other hand, looked at the Kyuubi woman before him before nodding slightly. "So, I died in your timeline, huh? Well, I don't know whether I should feel prideful or disappointed, that it took my student Nagato, the Rinnegan wielder, to kill me," Jiraiya said with a serious expression on his face. Kakashi then asked Naruto something that had been bugging him since Naruto's match against Neji. "Naruto, you said you gained not only Obito's Sharingan, but also Sasuke's Rikudo chakra plus one of Kaguya's Byakugan?" Kakashi asked curiously. Instead of answering, Naruto simply closed his eyes before opening them again. His left eye was a 3-tomo Sharingan while his right eye was the Byakugan. Hearing about Naruto having a dojutsu is one thing, but seeing is another. Hiruzen had already seen Naruto's Sharingan, but he hadn't seen Naruto's Byakugan yet. Naruto's left eye unconsciously changed. The 3-tomo changed into 3 stretched triangles evenly spaced around the pupil that each curve at the top around the eye to form a circle, making it like a pinwheel. It only lasted an instant, but Hiruzen and Jiraiya both caught, but Naruto and Kakashi seemed to be unaware of the change. Obito's Mangekyo Sharingan combined with Sasuke's Tomo Rinnegan, and that's my left eye. But because I'm in my younger body, a lot of my abilities, like my Mangekyo Tomo Rinnegan, Tenseigan, and Rikudo chakra have been sealed up in my body. Kahana-chan said I have to do a ton of physical training before I can use them again. Narrowing his eyes, Jiraiya looked towards his future and past student. The Mangekyo Sharingan, from what I understand, is achieved through unbelievable emotional trauma, such as loss of a loved one or close friend. But then again, Obito gave him his eyes, and something probably horrific awakened it prior to giving it to Naruto, Hiruzen thought to himself. The Gaki is that powerful, and the stuff he told us is true. Once he reawakens the Rinnegan, he'll be an absolute monster with the aid of the Jubi and Kyubi. The question is, how should I go about his training? I was planning on having them sign the Toad contract. But with the Mangekyo most likely reawakening soon, I'm going to have to focus on that and push back the summoning to later. Jiraiya thought to himself. Hiruzen cleared his throat, gain everyone's attention. Naruto-kun, I believe your Mangekyo Sharingan is already reawakening, and I'm going to have Jiraiya-kun help you master it by the finals. As for your Byakugan, I'll wait until the Chunin exams are over before I speak to Hiashi about this. I don't think you're too much of a problem, but the elders of the Hyuga may have a problem. Hiruzen said with a frown. I guess I could always tell them that I'm a descendant of the Otsutsuki clan, since I'm the reincarnation of Rikudo Sennin's second son Otsutsuki Ashura. Naruto said as Hiruzen nodded. That should work, Naruto-kun, but until I speak with Hiashi, try not to use for Byakugan too much. Hiruzen advised as Naruto nodded. Kakashi now sporting a disappointed look as the council was forcing him to train Sasuke. Damn the civilian council, they're completely fine with me training the Uchiha kid, but if they knew how powerful Naruto was, they'd try to have them executed. Like hell am I going to let them do that? Kakashi mentally growled to himself. Kahana smiled warmly as she saw Naruto and Jiraiya talking to each other. You gonna accomplish great things, Naruto-kun. I just know you will. Kahana thought herself. Hiruzen smiled before he got up from his desk and walked over to Minato's picture, performing. On one hand, Tiger Seal 3 scrolls popped out. Naruto-kun, these are your inheritance. The red one is from Kushina, the yellow one is from Minato. And the blue one holds your inheritance as well as the key to your parents' house. Hiruzen handed the 3 scrolls to Naruto, who was sporting a look of pure disbelief. Wait, you're just giving them to me right now? Hiruzen nodded as Naruto could feel more emotions coming to the surface before he hugged the old Hokage to the ground despite his protesting. Flashback end. Naruto smiled at his most recent memories. Having his perverted godfather back brought a warm smile to his face. Now that he had them back, Naruto wouldn't let Jiraiya die this time. He would protect everyone. Unfortunately, Naruto was brought out of his train of thought as a cloud of smoke appeared in his room. Naruto quickly glanced at it as he saw familiar redhead standing there staring at him. Kurami-chan? What are you doing here? Not that I'm complaining. Naruto asked in a curious tone. Said Vixen slowly advanced towards Naruto. My, Naruto-kun, you're growing quite quickly. You didn't even have to do much for your Mangekyo Sharingan to come back. Of course, you'll have to wait a little longer, but once it's back you have the powers of Amaterasu, Kamui short and long, and Aminateikara. Hikara. Not even to mention your Rikudo chakra and Tenseigan. Yeah, I'm starting to think that maybe I shouldn't ever use those, at least for a long time. And why would that be? Because otherwise there'd be no challenge. Even Madara wouldn't be able to do much if I went 100%. Every battle would be over from the get-go. Indeed, you did take out the godly Kaguya of your world, but with that much power you could guarantee safety to all the people you love. I guess you're right, but I think I might limit myself to what I use against who. Sounds like a plan, but you'll have to use a ton of your power to defeat me, of course. I won't be holding back at that time. Kurami spoke with a creepy smile across her face. Don't worry, Kurami-chan, I will make sure to give you hell in battle. The 13-year-old boy promised the centuries-old demon fox. Time skip, training field. Naruto made his way towards training field 22, where he and Jiraiya decided they would begin his training. Jiraiya, still the same man as his otherworld counterpart, was behind a bush peeking at a bunch of young women who were playing in a lake. Oi Ero Sennin, I'm here. Naruto yelled out. Jiraiya's eye twitched. Damn it, Gaki, don't call me that. Jiraiya yelled out comically, which Naruto retorted in an equally comically manner. I'll start calling you that when you stop peeking at women. Naruto yelled out as all the women on the other side of the bush screamed out in terror before running. Jiraiya began to cry comically. Ah, no, you ruined my precious peeking, no I mean research. Jiraiya cried as Naruto shook his head and laughed. Here, Ero Sennin, I have a little present for ya. Naruto said, hoping to cheer up his Ero Sennin. Jiraiya was slightly interested as Naruto put his hands together forming the ram symbol. Transform. Naruto's body was covered in a thick white cloud of smoke. When it dissipated, Naruto was revealed to no longer be there. In the place of the young teen boy was a beautiful woman with long blonde hair and twin tails. She wore nothing to cover herself, relying on two thin lines of smoke to cover her private parts. View of this beautiful woman nearly rendered Jiraiya unconscious as he fell to the floor. Naruto transformed back and laughed at his teacher, who was struggling to not die from the blood streaming out of his nose. Truly, this kid is the child of prophecy. This'll be so helpful for my research, he thought before standing himself up. After Jiraiya calmed down, he stood in front of Naruto once more. Alright Gaki, show me what you can do. Naruto nodded before extending his right hand out. Strong chakra began spiraling in a circular fashion, before forming a perfect sphere of chaotic spiraling chakra. In Naruto's other hand, lightning began sparking to life before it formed the Chidori. Jiraiya's eyes widened at this. Damn, that's impressive. I never thought he could use Chidori and Rasengan, let alone at the same time. The Gamma Sanin thought to himself. Gaki, where did you learn the Chidori from? Jiraiya asked curiously. Naruto cancelled both of his jutsu before answering his perverted sensei. I used Rikudo Sennin mode, so I have complete understanding of all 5 nature forms, including Yin, Yang, and Yin-Yang release, and I can also perform most ninjutsu with just one hand. Any jutsu I haven't seen or used I can learn with my Sharingan, Naruto explained, which surprised Jiraiya. He can use any ninjutsu with just one hand, and he performed Chidori purely from memory? He's truly a genius, probably even more so than Minato. Jiraiya thought to himself in bewilderment. Jiraiya then decided to ask another question. How well can you use your Biju's chakra right now? Jiraiya asked when you know what his relationship was with Kurami and Kahana. Naruto then answered. With Kahana I can use her power whenever I want, although due to my weaker body and not having the Rinnegan awakened, I can't really use more than 5% of her chakra. If I use any more it will overload my body and could injure me. I'd probably be in the hospital after 10%. As for Kurami-chan, I must earn her respect first, and until that point I will not ask her for chakra. Naruto answered. Jiraiya frowned at this. So, he needs to strengthen his body and reawaken the Rinnegan before he can use Kahana's chakra. And Kurami won't let him use her chakra until he gets her respect. Jiraiya thought. Do you think with 5% of Kahana's chakra would you be able to defeat Orochimaru when he attacks Konoha? Jiraiya asked, not realizing how powerful Kahana truly was. Naruto stared Jiraiya with a deadpan expression. Did you ask me to fight Orochimaru, using Kahana's power? Naruto asked in a confused tone. Jiraiya was quick to respond. Well, you did say you can utilize some of your power with no negative side effects and she's willing to lend you power whenever you want? So, I honestly don't see anything wrong with that. Jiraiya replied. Naruto sighed but couldn't help but smile. First, Kahana is a couple hundred if not thousand times stronger than a cage-level shinobi. Second, there won't be a fight if I use Kahana's power against him. It would be like firing a Bijudama, tailed beast ball, to get rid of an anthill. I can literally destroy the 5 great nations with her power alone, not that I ever would. But to answer your question, yes, using 5% would completely crush Orochimaru if things get really hairy. Naruto explained to his perverted sensei, whose eyes widened. You're serious? You can literally destroy the 5 great nations on your own with her power. Jiraiya sounded scared. Naruto nodded. Yes, I could use the power one gained from becoming the Kahana's Jinchuriki as 20 times greater if not more than the power you gain from the Rinnegan. But here's the kicker, you need the Rinnegan to become the Jinchuriki of Kahana or the Gedo Mazo. Naruto explained. Jiraiya was as white as a ghost. He knew some things about the Rikudo Sennin and the Rinnegan. What exactly is the Rinnegan truly capable of? Jiraiya asked, slightly afraid of the answer she might get. Naruto sat down before rubbing his chin. It's kinda hard to say, but basically the basic abilities you get are the ability to see chakra in its initial state. You can see barriers, you can see invisible targets. You gain all 5 Baish changes in chakra nature, as well as the ability to master any non-Kekkei Genkei ninjutsu. Now the Rikudo no Jutsu, 6 paths technique, are separated into 6 different categories. The first being Tendo, Diva path, which allows the user to manipulate gravitational attraction repel forces. Next is Shirado, Asura path, which allows the user to create mechanized limbs, weaponry and armor. After that is Ninjendo, human path, which allows the user to read anyone's mind as well as the ability to rip their soul out. Next is the Chikushodo, animal path, which allows the user to summon any type of creature they can imagine. Gakido, Preda path, allows the user to absorb an infinite amount of chakra. Jigokudo, Naraka path, which allows the user to summon the king of hell to either heal or interrogate. Naruto explains as Jiraiya simply sits there growing paler. Naruto smirks at his sensei's expression. That's not all, is the 7th path, as well as unique abilities each Rinnegan user is able to unlock. The Gedo, outer path, is the strongest path, which grants the user the ability to control the realms of life and death. Naruto took a quick breath after explaining all of this to Jiraiya, all the information Kahana just relayed over to him. Jiraiya did not move a muscle, he didn't even speak, he simply stared at Naruto as if he was gathering Senjutsu chakra, as he was now paperwhite. Hey, with those eyes of yours you should be virtually unstoppable even without 10 tails Jinchuriki mode. Jiraiya said as he couldn't believe the power of the Rinnegan. Any user would be nearly unstoppable. Naruto smirked. Do you want to know what kind of powers I gain from Kahana? Naruto said as Jiraiya shook his head. No, I'm good for right now, you can tell me later. I'm still trying to wrap my head around what the Rinnegan can do. Jiraiya said before standing up. Now, Naruto, what I'm going to focus on is helping you reawaken and gain control over your Mangekyo Sharingan. As you said, once you master the Mangekyo, the Rinnegan will awaken soon after. The sooner that happens, the sooner we can deal with the Akatsuki, because to be completely honest, I do not want the 4th Great Shinobi War to happen. I've already seen the aftermath of one of them, and I can't bear to see more. Jiraiya explained with his arms crossed underneath his chest. Naruto stood up with determination in his eyes. Of course, now, let's get started, Jiraiya-sensei. Naruto declared as Jiraiya grinned as both student and master got into fighting stances. Your first task is activating it. Then using it to track my attacks. I'll be using Sennin mode as well. Yes.
That's all for now. If you want to see next part, then please like this video and subscribe my channel. Thank you.